to ensure that they live in a space where they can feel safe to do, wear, and say anything as they feel like they can practice their human rights.
The bail application of a well-known Likompo musician Litlogonolo Chauke, popularly known as Shebe Mabena, has been postponed to Tuesday next week in the Polokwane Magistrate Court in Limpopo. He's facing multiple counts, including an attempted murder that he allegedly committed in Ladana, Polokwane last month. Magistrate Godfrey Nechuozi has postponed the bail application for further investigations. Nigerian officials say gunmen have kidnapped an unknown number of pupils from a Catholic school in Niger State. Some reports say almost 100 pupils and staff may have been taken. It is the third mass abduction in Nigeria in a week. Bandits who kidnapped 38 worshippers from a church on Tuesday are reportedly demanding a ransom of $69,000 for each of them. U.S. President Donald Trump has threatened military action over the treatment of Christians in the West African country. Recapping the top story, the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development, Mamuloko Kubai, says security is being heightened in the country's courts nationwide. I'm on Dilambana for SFM News headlines at 3:30.
Steadies understands that victory in their own backyard is highly important before the going gets tough on foreign soil. While the Congolese Giants want to kick off their group stage campaign on a high note. This is the CAF Confederation Cup encounter. Stellenbosch FC versus AS Otoho. This Sunday, 23 November at 2:30 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Then on SABC radio stations at 3 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
So you thought you were building a business in this economy, but day by day, somehow it grew. You kept going when the freezer didn't freeze, the bucket didn't budge, and the bank balance barely blinked. So you thought you were building a business. You weren't. It was building you. Because this isn't just what you do anymore. It's who you are. And you don't trust just anybody to protect it. Chat to your broker about Old Mutual Insure Business Insurance. Protect what built you. Old Mutual Insure Limited is a licensed FSP and non-life insurer.
The Green Eagles believe nothing will stop them from flying high with 3 points on Egyptian soil. However, the Glamour Boys want to wrap up the weekend with a special message for their fans. This is the Group D first leg contest of the CAF Confederation Cup. Catch Al Masri SC versus Kaizer Chiefs FC this Sunday, 23 November at 5:30 p.m. live on SABC3 and SABC Plus. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
In your sports this hour, Danae van Niekerk back in the Proteas women's setup and Kaizer Chiefs eyeing CAF Confed Cup tone sitting to win Annis. Where's more details at 3:30.
And this is the National Pulse. My name is Ashraf Garza. I can tell you now as I look, the one big question that most people are asking, certainly those living in the Gauteng region, is like, hey, tell me about the road closures. November 21, 22, 23. Tell me all about that. Because as you know, Gauteng, Joburg specifically, very much in the midst of G20 fever. And as a result of that, naturally, there are road closures that impacts people's lives. But for a great cause, I would think, right? So welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. We were in Durban yesterday for the Albert Luthuli Memorial Lecture. Met many of the people at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, Westville, and great to have connected with you when you were there. And thanks for coming up and saying, hey, you listened to the show and you enjoyed. And the lecture itself was really terrific. And there should be a podcast up on the SFM website. So check it out. Listen to that lecture. Maybe if I get a chance, I'll tell you more about that as well later on. But there's many more things we're gonna talk about. I'll tell you one thing that's for sure is you go to so many people's timelines and there's no Madlanga Commission today. So for a change, we have the closest to a normal show, but many timelines on social media would have it that purplish color poster or unite against GBV, enough is enough. And that's been a theme that's been ongoing for the last few days, but certainly a massive protest nationwide against GBV, which unfortunately is so much a normal part of South African life. and is completely unacceptable. So huge attention to that. And as you may be aware, there's been a government reaction in terms of announcements, which we will talk about that as well later on. But let's do this. Let's get then to, in the absence of the Madlanga Commission, the one thing absolutely that has dominated the headlines for the last few days, well, in fact, I would think the better part of the last month or 6 months going before that, which has been the issue of the of G20, right? And well, we're now here. So let's talk about it. There are many implications in terms of the who, what, when, where, why, under that theme of solidarity, equality, and sustainability. With me, Sophie Mokoena, who's the SABC News special correspondent. I've never introduced you like that, Sophie. Special correspondent for the SABC. Hi.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ashwin. The new title, that I am more relaxed and just covering international news for those who are willing to use my expertise. And thank you so much.
Thank you. And of course, many do. Well, we last met at UNISA at that event a few weeks back, and you just made that point that you're a lot more flexible. Well, flexible or not, we still need you to talk about G20. So perhaps let's start with this in a nutshell. First of all, just let's call it the idiot's guide to G20. For those who don't really get it, what is the G20 and why is it that important?
A G20 is a sum of countries that agreed in 2007 to work together, particularly after the financial crisis and also the economic crisis that we saw as it relates to China and therefore in Asia. Now, this forum, when it started, it was a forum of 20 countries and at ministerial level, in other words, ministers of finance and the central bank governors of the 20 countries. South Africa has been part of it since it was launched. Later, it was elevated to Leaders Summit with heads of state and government of these 20 countries attending, including the European Union. Last year, then it was elevated again with the involvement of the African Union. It is a forum where you agree, you take decisions, persuading each other to avoid challenges facing the world economically or politically. And the political perspective for the last 3 years has derailed the adoption of what we call communique or resolution because of the war in Ukraine. We have so that's the group. And
Okay.
now because it is now at heads of state and government level, there's no interest in it. But Trevor Manuel hosted the G20 summit when he was finance minister.
Okay, wow, that's a long time ago. So, when you say take decisions, so of course, for many people listening in, their terms of reference would be, the way the United Nations, for example, takes decisions. So, what type of decision making does the G20 take? And then, very importantly, when they make those decisions or take those decisions, what happens to those decisions then?
You agree on how to tackle issues. You take a decision. This is what we are going to do on the economy as it relates to trade, global trade. However, implementation, it's not binding. And the decisions and agreements by consensus. But leaders and countries are fully aware that agreements and decisions that are being adopted are in the interest of addressing challenges in respective countries, in their respective countries. Therefore, there's always a political will to implement because it's powerful nations and they don't ignore each other.
Hmm. And when we talk about decisions being taken, so give us an example of the type of decisions made. Because again, I'm drawing the reference of the UN, but from your outset, I get a sense being G20 industrialized nations, that would mean what business making decisions, or would it be far broader than that? It could also affect issues of inequality and the economy and
Yes.
maybe migration and a whole and other issues around injustice in the world too.
It depends on the theme of the summit. For example, South Africa equality and solidarity that related issues. Therefore, they will agree that to address inequality, this is what we must do as a group. Countries will then interact with each other to do just that. For example, on issues of the peace and security, they will say peace and security is quite important for the development of
Mm,
any
mm,
country.
mm.
Therefore, at all times, we must support the peace initiative. And then look at the war in Ukraine, Middle East, and Sudan, DRC. Therefore, that's what often happens. Now, the South African government took a conscious decision to focus on inequality in particular. That's why the president requested those economic experts come up with a way forward and a document how you address inequality. Stiglitz, Professor Stiglitz leading that, a Nobel laureate. And then you had Minister of Finance appointing former Minister Trevor Manuel to also weigh in on challenges, almost similar challenges. We saw former Minister Trevor Manuel presenting the Africa report.
Mm,
For
mm.
example, the issue of debt is high on the agenda. We spoke to the Minister of Finance, who said to me it was high on their agenda. The finance act, that's the group that's dealing with it, led by Treasury, had
Okay.
some
Yeah.
agreement. Issues of transformation of financial system, quite important. Therefore, these are critical issues that the group is likely going to address
Okay.
as per agreement.
And of all of that, culminates in this weekend. Now, help clear this up for us. In terms of what happens this weekend, is it effectively what many people may think the beginning of the G20 for the year, or in fact, it is the end? It's the culmination of months of work that's gone into this weekend.
It's culmination of months of work. You know that there were lots and lots of meetings before this summit. Those inputs from different meetings culminated in what the Sherpas uh, call negotiations to come up with a declaration. So I was told today around lunchtime that the Sherpas, that group of negotiators from those countries, have agreed on a declaration. So as we speak, there's a draft declaration that is on the table. That is on the table. Now, it will then be taken to countries and the leaders to make changes if they want to make changes, and take a decision at the heads of state and government level to adopt that declaration. The president yesterday, that confidence
Mm.
emanated from the fact that he knew what was happening because Minister Lamole was there and the Sherpa, Dr. Zain Tango, and others who are assisting, leading those negotiations. I'm told it took them 24 hours almost negotiating. And finally, the declaration draft
Okay.
is
Yeah.
there now.
All right.
And now it will be the leaders' responsibility to adopt declaration. And I think the president knew very well how the negotiations progressing when he was confident that there's going to be a summit declaration.
Okay. And the actual declaration that is made, that would happen around what time on Sunday?
Well, it will happen when the president uh, officially closing the summit. That announcement. But after opening program tomorrow, in a closed session, they are going to discuss where to from here. And maybe they may decide to have a press conference by perhaps Striker. Unfortunately, it's not Striker because America said it will not participate.
Mhm.
Even though now they go to NASDAQ to participate because that's participation. When you go to a function, you have people who have been accredited, you have security, you are leading a delegation, participate official handover because you make even though we've had that the spokesperson of the president, Vincent Bagwenya, saying
Yeah, do I still have you there?
to the attaché because we don't have an ambassador here. Attaché is the most senior person
Mhm.
in the US embassy. South Africa.
Okay. So, I mean, it's an interesting one, and I don't want to spend too much time about the USA because sometimes we give it too much attention. But yes, I mean, I saw the different language being used in terms of they not coming, the senior leader, the president, the vice president are not coming, but there'll be this attaché as you refer to, right? So they will come to receive, obviously, what happens at the closing, right? Let's then talk about the declaration proper. So, this declaration, from what your understanding is in the past, right? How long is this declaration? And are you able to tell us, in the past, what has happened when we've had these declarations at previous G20 summits, right? How much of that has held or holds, or others just fall by the wayside?
Well, they do follow up on some of the issues. You know, the declaration might have different frames. Next today, the next step or the country that's the president of the may take forward some of these issues. For example, in South Africa was fortunate in a sense that it was the turn of the South and those countries being members of BRICS. So there was common position from India to Brazil and from now Brazil to South Africa. So it was now this rotation is returning back to the developed north, where you're gonna have America, if the America is going to be the United Kingdom. So it will be interesting to see what America may not follow up on these matters. They have indicated. But the Minister of Finance told me that America, during the finance tracking meetings and engagement, that's why they were able to adopt the system. That I say take related trust. They want else. Not surprising. Now, I you will different position may some of the issues that
Hmm.
were of the Johannesburg Declaration if it gets adopted.
Okay. Now, one of the things I've had, in fact, I had the same question like not even 30 minutes ago from someone say, so Ashraf, tell me something. This G20 summit, how will this benefit South Africa? So,
It's all about
how do
the
you answer that?
economy. It's all about economy and of the need both national and international need changing and you cannot do it only at a level. You have to identify strategic partners in the important organization group, read your G20, including G7, even though we are not the G40 Africa in to the G7 meeting. So you will not be there. How it secondly, political level, when you look at the political level, because it has been elevated to head of state and government, they are able to discuss issues such as peace and security. We have a problem. Our Mozambique, Cabo Delgado.
Mm,
There's
mm.
no way Mozambique can handle this matter alone. South Africa is a neighbor. If we don't play a role to assist that area to stabilize and be at peace, we will be Any a forum where you have many people, do it. You can mobilize it. Let's talk about now. I just had an exclusive interview with the Foreign Affairs Minister of Egypt.
Mhm.
He breaking news was that Stemming pledging conference for Gaza. When he explained this, you can see that Egypt is here invited by South Africa as part of these countries that have been invited because they want to engage with everybody because everybody is here at this moment. So that's the importance of these multilateral forums and conferences. You're not going to see it now, but in the long run, you'll remember that, oh, I see this thing because I remember 10 years ago, this was announced.
Yeah, it's very, very important. Yeah, yeah.
That you, it, it's not in your face. The same with today, we saw Prime Minister of the United Kingdom about South African infrastructure and making those for rail. It's very important what has happened. And rail people transport, this is the life promise. If we get partners to help us the rail infrastructure, the life of commerce
Yeah.
infrastructure transport will be very, very
I think I think you're spot on there. Yeah, I see the Indonesian delegation just about arriving now at G20. So it's all by the minute. Everybody coming, right? Just two things before I let you go, Sophie McQueen. What about how do you think South Africa as a country have emerged from the entire build-up of the G20? I mean, it's taken a complete year because the last one was in Brazil a year ago. So in that entire build-up to where we are now, how is South Africa as a country with its leadership? Some of them are political leaders, starting with the president, but of course there are business leaders. You mentioned Zain Dango, of course, from international relations, but also Cass Kuvadia. But there are so many different people at different levels. I saw Peggy Sukumalo playing a role. I mean, there are many people. How has South Africa as a country emerged from this?
You know, one thing about South Africa is that issues of national diplomacy, negotiations, South Africa will surprise you. Not really a surprise because they've continued on that perspective since Nelson Mandela, Thabo Mbeki, Halima Mutante, Jacob Zuma, and now Cyril Ramaphosa. The part of diplomacy has been continued. Now, South able to navigate challenges. I mean, for example, you can't question South Africa's hosting of G20 in terms of capacity and whatnot. And South Africa has hosted the World Summit on Sustainable Development in 2000 with more than 100 out of state and government under the UN conference, the racism conference, large number again, the launch of the AU, the
Mm.
World and then able to manage. The problem is how do you translate your expertise South Africa instilled in terms of service delivery? Use those people who are so good to help us deliver for ordinary people. We see now the infrastructure improvement in Gauteng. Why can't, why do we have to wait for this process of hosting a conference like this for people to say, in my street now I have traffic lights. Why?
Mm.
So I
Mm.
think South Africa will have to ensure that much as it is able to navigate and play an important role in the global stage, you still have local government. And
Yeah,
in
good
these
point.
people have met who are these of them retired politicians. I mean, Silva with that report, Zimzilem Lambonguka at the social summit, bringing them back, many others, and the current leadership in the president. You just have to do that and deliver
Mm.
for
Mm. Mm.
ordinary people.
All right. Here's the last thing very quickly, Sophie McQueen. Now, just um, of all things that you've already said, what's the just one thing that you would be looking out for this weekend?
I will be looking out for what the summit going to say about debt relief for poorer nations and the developing nations, because that will unlock the economic potential and the resources of as those who are choked, those who GDP are equal to paying interest of loans at IMF and World Bank. This is just one thing. Lastly,
Mm.
on political, I want to see what is the summit going to say. Going forward, how do we deal with these conflicts that have now dominated the global discourse?
Well, there we are. Lots to consider. Sophie Mokoena, thank you for your time. Appreciate those very, very significant insights that you've shared around a huge G20 weekend in Gauteng, specifically in the Johannesburg area, but the implications are for the rest of the South Africa and maybe the rest of, not maybe, has to be the rest of the world as well. Sophie Mokoena is the SABC News specialist correspondent. And I mean, in simple terms, when we talk about this, and I touched on the United Nations earlier on, you could well say that the G20, if it's not the United Nations, because it's not, it certainly is very much the World Cup of Nations. I mean, that gets you a sense of where we are. It's a World Cup of Nations coming together to try and deliver, but without just one winner. That's the significant difference. It has to be a collaborative, multi-level participation so that we as nations of the world can all win and that there are no losers. Can we get to that level? Just dwell on that. Lots of people have commented already. I know that. So feel free to do that. You can call in 086 000 2032. And if you're WhatsApping, well, 30 seconds, please, for a voice note. 0614 104 107. Text as well. Hashtag the National Pulse if you have a thought that you want to tweet it out to. Let's get to the news headlines now. It's 3:30. Here's Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development, Mamoloko Kubai, says they are already assessing the work of the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry and Parliament's ad hoc committee, looking at those who are implicated in wrongdoing. The Gabinde inquiry into the fitness of suspended South Gauteng NPA Director Andrew Chauke's fitness to hold office has granted the NPA legal team an early adjournment until Monday after the team raised challenges hindering their preparedness to proceed with the hearings. And at least 5 people have been killed in Bangladesh in an earthquake measuring 5.5 magnitude, which hit the center of the country earlier today. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Near Athol Oaklands Road, the N14 southbound in Centurion is where the G20 Summit convoy operations is in place at Brakfontein interchange, so expect as convoys move through the area. And the N1 southbound in Pretoria also has G20 Summit convoy operations in place at the R21 highway, so expect delays as convoys move through that area as well. In KZN, the N3 southbound in Pietermaritzburg queuing towards New England Road. The N3 westbound has a crash before the M13 Paradise Valley interchange. Cape Town, the N2 outbound slow moving towards the M5 highway. The N1 outbound is slow moving towards Okavongo Road, and Victoria Road slow moving through Camps Bay. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tumi Nkapele.
Right, to me, our very own Minister of Sport. Let's talk about the Proteas.
Yeah, very good afternoon to you, Ashraf, and our listeners. Well, former Proteas women's captain Danae van Niekerk is set to make her return to international cricket after 4 years. Coach Mandla Mashimbe has named her in the squad for South Africa's inbound tour against Ireland this December. Van Niekerk retired back in March 2023. This is after missing out on selection for the T20 World Cup, but she reversed that decision in August this year, and she's been included in both the ODI and T20 squads for the 6-match series, which is starting on the 5th of December. If you've been wondering what she's been doing, well, she briefly played at the Women's Premier League in India, but also made a proper return to domestic game for Western Province, and she was actually included in a national training camp building up to the 2025 ODI World Cup, but did not make that final squad and continued playing locally as she's making her case for a return. And now, obviously, she's eyeing the T20 T20 World Cup next year. Meanwhile, Kagiso Rabada has been ruled out of the second India test tomorrow. This is after failing to fully recover from a rib injury. Then, Devil Brevis and Keshaf Maharaj are making a return in the ODI side, while Luandre Pretorius and Donovan Ferreira did not make the team in the ODI and T20 squad announcements today. In terms of that T20 squads, fans will definitely be excited to see Heinrich Nortje back in action. He's been named in the T20 squad and will play his first match for South Africa since the T20 World Cup final in June 2024 against India. Along with Nortje, David Miller and Gwena Mapanga has also been recalled to the T20 team. In terms of football, Kaizer Chiefs are settling into their new surroundings in Egypt, and sporting director Kaizer Motaung Jr. believes that 3 points is definitely within reach against Al Masry on Sunday. The two teams lock horns in their CAF Confederation Cup group stage opening match at the Suez Stadium on Sunday evening in a tough Group D, which also features Egyptian giants Zamalek and Zambian side Zesco United. Motaung Jr. knows win in this fixture will definitely set the tone for the tournament.
I think an important 3 points on the board from the get-go is very important. And I think a positive start away puts in a very good stead. I think everyone's going out there to put their best foot forward. We know that's going to be a mammoth task ahead of us, but I think that the team is very well prepared. And I think we're also very aware of the threat that's going to face us, and I think we're looking forward to it, quietly optimistic. And I think everyone knows the importance of 3 points. We're going to win. We're playing to win. So we're looking forward to give our best away from home. And, if you get those away results, it could be tough for teams coming here to South Africa in our summer, playing in the afternoons. They're not used to that there. So an away tie is very crucial for us.
Elsewhere, Arsenal and Bukayo Saka are in talks over a new long-term contract. There's no agreement between the player and the club currently, but discussions are reportedly positive, and there is willingness from all parties to come to a resolution. The 24-year-old's current Arsenal deal is set to expire in 2027, and as you know, he's an academy product and has scored 76 goals in 277 appearances for Arsenal since making his debut in November 2018. Finally, in motorsport, Toto Wolff has sold 15% of his shareholding in the Mercedes Formula One team to American billionaire George Kurtz. Now, Kurtz is the founder of the cybersecurity firm CrowdStrike, which is a sponsor for Mercedes, and the deal values Mercedes F1 at $6 billion, a record for an F1 team, and McLaren were valued at 3.5 billion euros in a change of ownership struck up back in September. Now, Wolff's holding company owns 1/3 of Mercedes F1, so the shareholding he is selling equates to 5% of that team. Ashraf, before I say goodbye, I think I'm super excited for the fact that Danae van Niekerk is back in the Proteas side. So I'm looking forward to seeing how she's going to do. She's definitely my favorite.
Absolutely. But listen, just one other thing. And if it's offside, tell me. Yourself and Bridget and the production teams are all taking pictures in the other studio, all wearing black. There has to be a reason why.
Of course.
If it's private, I'll keep quiet. But if it's not private, tell us what.
No, I think it's known nationwide, actually worldwide. I saw some South Africans out of this country also saying they're standing in solidarity for all those women that we've lost to GBV, but also for the country to just really take a strong stand against it and to start proper conversations about it. And I saw now it's a national disaster.
Yeah. Thank goodness. It's about time. It should be. Well, even crime itself is a national disaster, but it's not a natural disaster, and it's unnatural. And I think we must understand that. Absolutely. Well, I'm wearing black as well, just so that you know.
See.
And we can got the cameras
take a pic.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, I think it's very, very important. Thanks for that, Tumi.
The Minister in the Presidency for Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, Sindisiwe Chikunga, will on the 25th of November 2025 officially launch the 16 Days of Activism for No Violence Against Women and Children under the theme Litsema, Men, Women, Boys and Girls, working together to end gender-based violence and femicide. Tune in to The Talking Point, coming to you live from the launch at the Gallagher Estate in Gauteng.
Okay, let's. I'll tell you what, there's lots to consider. I'm going to take your calls as well just now. But remember this in the meantime, extraordinary doesn't just happen. It's built by Digital Brick. Vodacom Business is helping shape South Africa's businesses from scalable cloud and AI that powers smarter decisions, to the IoT, Internet of Things, and connectivity that bridges every gap, backed by security you can trust. Together with business and government, Vodacom Business is building stronger industries and thriving communities, a nation ready to lead. So go to the website vodacombusiness.coza. Together, let's build the extraordinary Vodacom Business further together.
Access to the internet is vital for any country to grow. That's why the recent 6.75 billion rand digital infrastructure deal that Standard Bank Corporate and Investment Banking facilitated between Telkom and an Actis-led consortium is so transformational for South Africa. It unlocks growth and provides internet access to underserved communities who will now have access to the internet for the very first time. Search CIB Stories of Impact to watch the full story.
Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Carnival Club is counting 3 points on home ground. Meanwhile, the Kragkouwers refuse to travel back home without a win. This is the Bundesliga, football as it's meant to be. Catch FSV Mainz versus TSG Hoffenheim on Friday, 21 November at 9:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Right. So doing the right thing just got more rewarding, from the 1st of November to the 31st of December. When you pay your SABC TV license, we'll say thank you with a 50 rands grocery voucher and more. It's our way of celebrating you for helping us to keep local stories and talent alive. Pay, wait for your SMS, and follow the instructions to claim your reward. Make sure your contact details are up to date so we can send you your prize straight to you. TV licenses, pay yours, make a difference.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Right, I'll tell you what, outside of that fascinating conversation with Sophie McQuena, the other issue, understandably, is the practicalities of the who, what, when, where, why around, logistics that affects many people in this, in the city of Joburg specifically, but also extending, I think, to as far as Pretoria on the one hand, and then going to, areas like close to the OR Tambo Airport, Boksburg, Kempton Park, the East Rand, the Kuruleni as well, right? So let's talk about the road closure specifically around Joburg with Xolani Fila, who's the JMPD spokesperson. Much appreciate your time and thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, right. So you've got this very important work to explain to us. In short, what exactly can we expect if we live in and around the city of Johannesburg, starting today?
Definitely, and thank you once again. We can try things that the day they will see ahead and one or two four in towards the institute and on that one into Sandton. And of course, we're also monitoring the city, the district where the G20 has been hosted for a long time. Has said that a couple of place, particularly on the Golden Highway between Ransom Road more than some of the one to Nazareth Road, and the southern portion we have converted it into dual carriage to our movement for notice of the area, and Nazareth Road, then off the road and road, limited access to from other intervention traffic.
Now, you've said a lot. I would think that some people are going to hear it very clearly. Others are still going to be very, very confused because they may not know. For example, if you, I don't know, let's look at it hypothetically. If you're living at around the Jan Smuts Avenue in the northern suburbs of Joburg, right, there's been discussions that you can't cross over at certain times and you can. Now, maybe just to ask you, is there a website or a communication that we can be directed to, either the website or being shared on social media that we can get the specific details clearly as and when we want it?
Definitely there is a couple of either for price first give gas partners capital so trust the government and also changes through the state the yeah.
Okay, can you direct me to some of them? I mean, specifically when you say hours, where can we find you? Is it website? Is it social media? And if so, give us the details.
Specifically with social media, to transport the platform, Facebook, YouTube, on Pocket, and at W. Many of those other websites like yes, and also
Okay, so cityofjoburg.org is a significant website that can help us with all very specific questions for people's regions, right? Because again, in broad terms, if they're not living near Rancho Road, Nasrec, it may not concern somebody else, but they can get all the details via that website, right?
yeah, and
Okay, yeah. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us?
definitely, but from tomorrow we'll definitely continue to uh, uh, this is starting our farmers bank around pods, ways, previous of this on things will be between the between and then the five but maybe just that full and temperatures that we
Okay, so that point about for some people that think that they cannot actually go. For example, I'm just looking hypothetically. If you had a business say at close to the Sandton Convention Center, and there's some temporary closure, it's not permanent. You could still get there, right? You could still go shopping in Sandton City, for example.
Yeah, definitely you can go shopping in the past 7 can construct getting but data to work in the and all areas as well until the companies make their way back into
Okay, well, thanks for clearing all of that up. Koldani Fila, the JMPD spokesperson. Thanks for that. It's a significant day, so get to that one website in particular, but there are many others, cityofjoburg.org. Just check it out, cityofjoburg.org, a significant one, or even Google road closures around G20 this weekend. If you are concerned enough, as I understand, you ought to be concerned enough, and you need to know that in advance as well, right? Okay, I'll tell you what, there's a chance now for us to speak to, we're going to take some of your calls as well and pick out some significant sound bites of the last few days.
SAFM commemorates Disability Rights Awareness Month under the theme Celebrating 30 Years of Democracy, Creating Strategic, Multi-Sectoral Partnerships for a Disability-Inclusive Society. SAFM supports and works tirelessly towards equity and equality for those with disabilities. Empowerment is key. Let us break the barriers and improve the quality of life for those with disabilities. Our efforts towards a better life for those with disabilities can only be impactful when we do so together. We do not tolerate any kind of discrimination. Disability Awareness Month 2025 on SAFM 104 to 107 FM nationwide, leading the conversations that move us.
Right, South Africa is taking its place on the world stage at the B20 and G20 summits, right? So Telkom is proud to stand with the nation, building a digital future that reaches every community. Through reliable fiber, mobile and cloud networks, Telkom is connecting families, small businesses, and young people to new opportunities. Telkom is helping drive digital public infrastructure so services are easier to access for all Telkom users, the digital backbone of South Africa's future.
X at SFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Right. So, by the way, you know this. Well, you don't know this. We've had so much of the Madlanga Commission in the last few weeks. We haven't had a Friday Fireside Chat. But we do have a Friday Fireside Chat today, I tell you. And I'll give you the name of that person just now. But I'll tell you one thing. He was a former politician. So you know that, right? Right. The SABC News Channel 404 is your official host broadcaster for the G20 Summit. So from 5:30 up to 11, you can catch live coverage on SABC2 with continuous G20 programming from 5:30 until midnight on SABC News Channel 404. You can also stream SABC News live on a dedicated G20 pop-up channel on SABC Plus. So don't miss a moment of the G20 Summit with SABC News. You got that?
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Right, there's been lots of you itching to talk. So here's your thoughts. Let's get it.
Afternoon, Ashraf. Ule here. With regards to the G20, I would like them to include the issue of unemployment, the high unemployment in South Africa on the G20 agenda. Because now this thing is a crisis, man. We have the highest unemployment in the world. Let all these world leaders share their best practices with Ramaphosa. How do they do it? Because Ramaphosa is fading, because now the situation is bad, man. Thank you.
Okay, but I mean, look, let's be fair. It's not about G20 for South Africa. It's G20 for the world, and we need to understand that role. Okay, here's another.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Still over here. I just have one song I want to sing for Trump, the US president. Yeah. Ayo yabu gachi. Uyahane. Yes. Yes. Thank you, Ashraf.
The former smart got that right. Here's a question.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Ashraf, what is the use of the G20 summit? Because I can tell you that after it, the status quo of a South African citizen like me will not have changed. Thank you.
You see, but again, I think you're missing the point. I mean, if you were the manager of a leading company, and the top 20 companies of the world get together, and even if your company in your country has got some problems, and they ask you, can you join in? Do you say yes or no? And then if they ask you next year, for example, can you host it on behalf of the other 20? Do you say no? I think we must not underestimate the leverage of what G20 means for the world, but certainly for South Africa, we must not underestimate that.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. It is good to see our SAPS members and our traffic officials doing their work like this. We wish this could happen all year round, 365 days, so that we can feel also safe. Can you see that? I just took a small video just to show you just now in Kempton Park. This is what is happening. There's law and order. And to hear that person of the President of the United States is running his mouth, it's not nice.
Well, there we are. That's not nice. I hear the two parts. Good to connect with you. The safety part, you're right. We've had, I think it was Adam Habib a long time ago who made the point to say, how is it that we get the World Cup so 100% spot on hosting the 2010 World Cup, and then we crumbled soon after? So we've had a history when it comes to hosting big events, sport and events like this, and like the BRICS Summit, for example. We just do such a good job. We must be able to understand how we can now replicate that throughout the year. And let's not say it's a question of resources. There must be a way. That must be part of the conversations we have internally. Talking about shooting your mouth off, let's get to that conversation. So yesterday, lots of drama because we do know that the United States officially confirmed that they were not coming at all, not anybody, right? That's the first part of it, right? So two things happen. Our president, referenced that the show will go on the one hand, and on the other hand, there was then a response from the United States Press Secretary, Caroline Leavitt. So I'll tell you what, she was critical of him in the response of what he said. I want you to listen to both. They're really fascinating in terms of how leaders of the world or their representatives communicate on their behalf to the world.
We have received notice from the United States, a notice which we are still in discussions with them over, about a change of mind about participating in one shape, form, or other in the summit. So the discussions are still ongoing. This comes really at the late hour before the summit begins.
That the administration is now sending a U.S. official to the G20. They're sending Mark Dillard. Can you confirm if that is true, and then also explain the shift in?
I'd be happy to explain, because there is not a shift. The United States is not participating in official talks at the G20 in South Africa. I saw the South African president running his mouth a little bit against the United States and the president of the United States earlier today, and that language is not appreciated by the president or his team. The ambassador or the representative of the embassy in South Africa is simply there to recognize that the United States will be the host of the G20. They are receiving that send-off at the end of the event. They are not there to participate in official talks, despite what the South African president is falsely claiming.
On Ukraine.
Okay, there we are. Well, you heard Sophie Mokoena also comment about it to say, okay, they not, engage in talks, but in terms of even receiving, I think it's semantics. It's like they participating, which is very different from not even being there in the first place, and even asking South Africa not to set up this declaration that they had spoken about. Now they will receive the handover of sorts. So I just thought worth talking about, looking at how different countries communicate to the world, because these are important platforms, right?
Done on Mr. Ashraf and your producer and all the listeners of SAFM. I like to comment regard to G20. I'd like to congratulate for President of SA, Mr. President Ramaphosa. He's doing a great job. I don't want to comment regard to Mr. Donald Trump, but I so wish if can listen SAFM. And I think where he is now is shaking, because he was thinking that this G20 will never progress. But unfortunately, God grace is progressing. A lot of people is coming with their numbers. Yeah, pick up. That is my concerns here from Cape Town.
Okay, well, the only part I disagree with you is your point about a lot of people thinking the G20 will not progress. I never for 1 minute doubted that. I really did not. And if one country decides not to be move on, the world is much bigger. In fact, that same country doesn't participate in many other multilateral and multi-level organizations in the world. Just move on, really. We need to make G20 and what it wants to be and what it purports to be, and the declaration, the center of the reasons why we are talking in the first place.
Ashraf, hello, this is Tsepiso. I wish I was hyped up and excited by South Africa hosting the G20. I'm following the pictures on the social media in Gauteng, how Johannesburg it is so clean and Sandton. And I'm thinking to myself, if really the government wants to do something and there is a political will, they will do it. And this also applies to GBV. And I just want to say to the Women for Change organization, thank you for all you do, especially as a survivor of GBV. Thank you.
Yeah, you and that last point is telling as a survivor of GBV, Tsepi. So thank you for that. I mean, look, at the moment, it looks like South Africa can get certain things right some of the time, but not all things right all the time. So a question of sustainability, but that's where leadership and capacity building must come in. And G20 and the investment from different countries into other countries, not just South Africa, is a leverage of trying to build capacity in our country. So that's the point. So you don't need to be excited about it. You just need to accept that. Would you rather have the G20 in this country or not in this country? Would you rather have it somewhere else when there's a sense that we can leverage off it?
Good day, Ashraf. It's Kulani from Devon. I do understand that many people think that they won't benefit from this G20 thing. The honest truth that maybe because you are a host, you may not say is that if you are not in business, yes, you won't benefit. If there's a discussion about construction, I'm not in construction, I won't benefit from that. If there's a procurement of arms or firearms and there's a talk about that, I won't benefit because it's not my expertise. If you're doing or if in your life you are still in a level of getting 350 SRD grant, accept that you're in that level. This thing of people that says no, this thing won't benefit us annoys me because really if you are not in that sphere of benefit, let alone leave it. You'll join another summit that will be equivalent to your position or to your level in society and in life in general.
Well, I hear you saying, and what you're saying is very, very interesting indeed. Yeah, in terms of who ultimately benefits, but you need to understand that there's different levels of benefit out of it. There's more. Here's one on the president.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. I don't understand the people who saying Ramaphosa must learn what and blaming him. But if you can check, since he got into power, this country was now rotten. When he took it from Jacob Zuma, it was rotten. If we can check, ESCOM is now working. If we can check, the repo rates are being revised all the time. If we can check, the investor confidence has been improved. If we can check so many things, the rent is also performing nicely. Huh? I don't know what do they want actually. Even the rate of the employment rate has also just been reduced. I don't know what do they want actually. Sometimes education is needed so that you know what is happening without just blaming. This is Jacob from Germiston.
Well, thanks for that, Jacob. But maybe that's why you playing your role in educating them, and this is maybe the nature of what we do, right? People share their opinions on air. By the way, in terms of without getting into the pros and cons of Ramaphosa, I think when anybody takes over a country, and there's naturally huge problems in a country, in a company, in an organization as well. You know, even in football, we say give the manager some time. You can't do it in 1 week. You need like 3 years to be able to get to where you want to be. So in this case, what would be the equivalent in terms of politics? Is 3 years enough? Clearly not. Think about that. I'll tell you who's coming up for the fireside just now, but let's get the news just going 4 o'clock.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the top stories, action to be taken against those implicated in Madlanga Commission and 5 people killed in an earthquake in Bangladesh. For SFM News, I'm Ondelambana and a very good afternoon. The Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development, Mamuloko Kubai, says they are already assessing the work of the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry and Parliament's ad hoc committee, looking at those who are implicated in wrongdoing. The 2 investigations, which are currently underway, were established to investigate wide-ranging allegations made by KZN Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi in July about criminal infiltration, corruption and political interference in the justice system. The minister was briefing the Portfolio Committee on Justice and Constitutional Development. Kubai says there's nothing prohibiting the law from taking its course.
The issue of what is happening at the commission and the Portfolio Committee, we are not waiting for the end, Chairperson. We are also dealing with some of the issues that are needed. As I said, in the prosecutorial environment, the issue is that the ethics officer office works and deals with the issues of that. If we look at honorable member, and I don't want to go into detail because we've agreed as staff members, we're not going to run commentary throughout.
The Nkabinde inquiry into the fitness of suspended South Gauteng NPA Director Andrew Chauke's fitness to hold office has granted the NPA legal team an early adjournment until Monday after the team raised challenges hindering their preparedness to proceed with the hearings. Chauke is accused of failing to prosecute cases involving politically connected individuals while leading a team of prosecutors from Gauteng and KZN. The adjournment has once again delayed National Director of Public Prosecutions, Advocate Shamila Batohi's testimony after it was postponed twice earlier this week. Inquiry leader Judge Besson Kabinde has warned the teams to resolve their challenges to expedite the hearings.
And for expediency, as I mentioned earlier, it will be proper that you work as a team. And I do appreciate that you are not necessarily an evidence leader, but work as a team to assist this inquiry. And we shouldn't be going back and forth the way we have done. And I think we have really given so much indulgences because things have not happened the way they ought to have happened. So I think in that spirit that we spoke about in chambers, that let us work towards a common goal. We are here to serve the country, to present evidence, to assist this inquiry.
The Women for Change organization that is behind the silent nationwide shutdown say they were overwhelmed after hearing that President Cyril Ramaphosa has declared gender-based violence a national disaster. The organization's sentiments comes amid thousands of social activists partaking in various demonstrations across the country to declare GBV a national disaster in South Africa. The organization's Michael Masina says this is the outcome they have been fighting for the longest time.
Next week, Friday, the 28th, we have a follow-up meeting. That is when the detailed plan will be highlighted to us as to what are the next steps, how the classification is going to be implemented, as well as the role in which civil society and NGOs will also play in terms of making sure that we can start making tangible and meaningful change for all the survivors, as well as making sure that the legislation that we have currently gets to be enforced in a manner and in a better way.
Gauteng traffic police have called upon motorists to exercise patience and caution on the roads ahead of the G20 summit in Johannesburg. This after two fatal crashes on the province's freeways this morning. One person died on the R59 near Alberton after hitting a barrier with his vehicle. Another person was fatally wounded after losing control of his vehicle on the R21 near the Moonlight Bridge. The traffic police have warned drivers to refrain from making illegal U-turns and stop using emergency lanes intended for emergency vehicles. Spokesperson Silo Marimane.
We would like to urge our motorists to refrain from making U-turns on our freeways, and also motorists must refrain from driving on yellow lanes, as this behavior limits access to emergency vehicles in the performance of their duties. Heavy traffic flows are anticipated on our freeways ahead of the G20 summit, and we are appealing to road users at large to obey the rules of the road.
At least 5 people have been killed in Bangladesh in an earthquake measuring 5.5 magnitude, which hit the center of the country earlier today. The government says about 100 people have been injured. The epicenter was about 30 kilometers from the capital, Dhaka. Tremors were felt in the city and in eastern Indian states bordering Bangladesh. This man in Dhaka describes the moment the earthquake struck.
I've never felt such tremors in my 30 years of life. We were at the office when the furniture started shaking. We rushed down the stairs on the street and saw other people on the road already.
Recapping the top story, the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development, Mamuloko Kubai, says they are already assessing the work of the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry and Parliament's ad hoc committee looking at those who are implicated in wrongdoing. I'm Onde Lambana for SAFM News. Headlines at 4:30.
In sports this hour, Mashimbe welcomes Van Niekerk back for Ireland tour. Jordan fraud case stalls again as defence files a recusal application, and Blitzbok named strong squad for Dubai season opener. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N12 westbound queuing towards the N1 Diepkloof interchange, and the M1 southbound slow moving towards Crown interchange. In KZN, the M13 westbound in Pinetown slow moving towards the M1 Richmond Road, And in Cape Town, the M5 southbound slow moving towards the N2 highway, and on Retreat Road eastbound, there's a crash at the M5 Prince George Drive. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
The Minister in the Presidency for Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, Sindisiwe Chikunga, will on the 25th of November 2025 officially launch the 16 Days of Activism for No Violence Against Women and Children under the theme Litsema, Men, Women, Boys and Girls, working together to end gender-based violence and femicide. Tune in to The Talking Point, coming to you live from the launch at the Gallagher Estate in Gauteng.
The best of the good life is coming back in 2026. But first off, Billings, Jonathan, Fez, and myself reunite for a road trip to the top beaches in SA. Kraalbaai, Camps Bay, Boulders Beach, and Nature's Valley. Don't miss the Top Billing Reunion Special, Thursday 27th November at 7 p.m. with repeat Saturday 29th at 3 and Sunday the 30th at 1 p.m. S3, open up.
Upgrade your summer to extraordinary with free gifts from Vodacom on all summer deals. Like the Redmi 15 on a Red Flexi 160 plan for just $199 per month over 36 months. And get Redmi Bud 6 Play worth $399 on us. Plus, enjoy even more extras with 5 gigs YouTube data and 2 months free YouTube Premium. Available in-store and online. T's and C's apply. Better together. Vodacom.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So lots of people talking about the issues of inequality and unemployment in South Africa and in the hope that G20 will resolve that. It won't resolve that in one day because G20 is not South Africa 20. Maybe that's what the national dialogue should be there for anyway, or other things too. But I think the point made in the conversation I had with Sophie Mokoena, and you can pick up that podcast as well, is that it's the impact of decisions taken that has an impact on the world and therefore in our country or on our country as well. And that's what you hope for. But it's not a one-day thing, right? But rather have it versus rather not having a G20. I wonder, what are your expectations of measuring G20, let's say 5 years from now? That's the one thing. The other one is just based upon what you've known, what you've seen, what you've heard, and what we've put together. What are your thoughts about South Africa's ability to manage the process as they have done and are doing right now? Just now, ahead of a most significant weekend. There's no question it's one of the most significant weekends in South Africa and its role globally in a democratic South Africa since 1994. You cannot dismiss that. That's one. By the way, coming up after 5, I did say we've got a fireside chat for the first time in a long, long time. And my guest is a former politician, retired now, been a member of the African National Congress as well as the SACP. And he's put together a book called Attacking the Heart of Apartheid, which covers, personal anecdote stories of the ANC's, MK's Special Operations Unit, sort of insider knowledge of that, right? And the person is, former minister, Yunus Karim. Looking forward to that conversation. I do hope you're going to join us as well on that, right? Let's move on now to in many ways, an issue linked to what we're talking about. And I must tell you, on the issue of gender-based violence, we will chat about that coming up just now. But for now, Operation Dudula will host a peaceful protest around the area of the Nasrec Expo Center the weekend to highlight concerns about unemployment, crime, and access to services, which they blame on illegal immigration. So let's find out what their story is with Zandile Dabula, the Operation Dudula president. Much appreciate your time, and thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, so some of the issues you've raised, and I've raised in the intro about unemployment, crime, and access to services, I think we all know are they're not revelations. I mean, we all know about it anyway, right? But specifically, why have you chosen to protest outside Nasrec at the weekend? Why then at that time around the G20 summit?
So, as you know, that since the inception of we've been trying to get the attention of the president of this country, but with no luck. And hoping that this time around, like for instance, I've attended the social summit in Kempton Park, and I'm hoping that the declarations that we've made will really be discussed in the summit. More than anything, we want to send a message across to him that we're still here, we're still trying because of the issues that we are facing on a daily basis, and with hopes that these issues will be discussed and the leaders from other countries will be able to, if not teach him, but will be able to at least, advise him in how to tackle the issues of immigration because they are, doing it well. The countries that he will be sitting with in that summit, these are the countries when we go to those countries, there's order. You will not get access if you don't have your passport and all that. So that's what we're hoping. But more than anything, we want to be visible. We want him to see us there. We want to send a message across that we are still complaining of such issues. If that can be settled, and we can at least get some sense of urgency when it comes to that. More than anything, we are calling on a state of emergency when it comes to immigration so that the issue can be tackled more quickly.
But I mean, but the state of emergency regarding immigration is not. It's not a G20 issue, is it?
It's not. But, you remember that discussing issues of equality, sustainability, and all of that, talking about the unemployment and all that. These issues, immigration is affecting these issues because how many times have we been to companies? Yes, for now we are barred from doing these operations until we appeal. But how many times do we go to companies that hire undocumented migrants? And we're getting tip off that you go to such companies and you find there's more foreigners than South African. And those people are actually not even bringing any special skill into the country. Looking at our public facilities,
All right.
proven that these people are stealing our medication. There's just no law and order, and we're hoping that because these people will have to come and invest in our country, they shouldn't be coming and investing in a country where it's just chaotic because they'll be.
But I mean that. But saying they shouldn't invest at all, because it's chaotic, suggests then it may remain even more chaotic because the problem is without investment, the chances of growth is diminished even further. You need investment no matter what the situation in the country is.
So you do need investment. Remember, like, we're going to make an example of safety. We're having visitors in the country, but we as South Africans do feel unsafe in the country. If anything should go wrong and done by an undocumented foreigner, nobody will be able to account for that incident of whatever. So them coming to invest in the country is a good thing. But what's going to be bad is coming to invest in a country where there is chaos, you will not even be making profit. Because what we've seen as well is that we have companies that are exploiting people because they want more profit. So if these other leaders can be able to advise the president of this country to make sure that they enforce the laws, because the laws are there, we just need the right people to enforce
Okay.
the laws. Follow.
I hear you, but I mean, interesting. It's a peaceful protest. You know that your organization has been accused by more than one of being not so peaceful in pushing the agenda of no undocumented foreign nationals. I mean, it's one thing is having a view that they must not be here, but the other is actually taking matters into their own hands.
So that's how we have been misinterpreted by mainstream. That's not true. It's not a real reflection of Operation Dudula. Operation Dudula is an organization that fights for the rights of ordinary South Africans who have been left behind because of foreigners. The president is not prioritizing its own citizens, but rather foreign nations. So it will be peaceful. We've been doing this for 5 years, and we've managed to manage our crowd and then listen to its leadership.
But have you not taken matters into your own hands, like getting into hospitals and deciding who must be treated? Have you not done that?
We shouldn't say it's taking law into your own hands. It's saying that we as the citizens have the right to enforce it. Remember that Section 42 of the Criminal Procedural Act allows us to do these things because that's the same reason why we want to appeal, especially with that section, because as a concerned citizen, hoping that by now we would see law enforcers and immigration officers at these facilities. But it's still not happening because there is no political will.
Okay, I hear you. Some may have a different view on yours, but let me pick up on this one. You said the thrust of your conversation was that the president is not listening at all. Now you do know there's the president who's at the head, but I mean there are different tiers of leadership, right? And it goes down to provincial and then local government, right? So we've just had an example in Johannesburg specifically, right? In the last few days that I think, and I may have figure wrong, but I think close to 500 or 600 foreign nationals arrested and set to be deported in the Mayfair area as part of an operation put together by Gauteng province. Isn't that an example of taking action versus what you're suggesting they're not taking action?
We shouldn't take action when we are expecting visitors in our country. These actions should be a norm. These are the things that needs to be done on a daily basis to curb crime and make sure that there is law and order. But we've seen a lot of things happening. There's going to be a G20 summit. Our roads are clean. We're having light in our streets. Service delivery has been.
Yeah, but I hear you. But I mean, are you not conceding that they have taken action?
Okay, no. I'm just concerned if are they going to sustain it rather than because from my angle and from the organization angle is that they're doing all of this because we're having visitors. As visitors, are they going to sustain and continue to do what they're supposed to be? There's nothing special with what they're doing.
Okay.
It's part of their job to do what they're doing.
I mean, look, that's a fair comment, right? And we spoke about it early on. Even when they get the G20 right, can they sustain that over a whole year? Because we all need that. But I mean, just to end with, the same can be leveled at you. That are you not taking action now outside Nasrec because of G20? That means you understand the spotlight and the power of being in the public eye at a time where there's attention on that region. That's why you're going to be there.
But that's what we need. We need their attention. We need to know that is not taking care of us. It's a privilege for us to have G20 summit hosted here in South Africa, especially because it's the first time it's hosted here in Africa and we are the first in South Africa. But it's meaningless if we still continue to go to bed and empty stomach. We continue to, being victimized by people that we don't even know of. Our kids are still dying of poisonous food. And, there's a lot. Our systems are suffocating because of the influx of nationals. It's going to be meaningless. It means they're going to do one and the same thing over and over again. Let's just deal with the main issue, which is immigration, and then all will fall into place. I mean, we need that attention. We want.
All right. Well, you've got the attention, and so is those. Well, you've got the attention. So is the same with the Premier of Gauteng in terms of his own cleanup operations. So both of you may have succeeded to a degree. Can you sustain that? We shall see. Zandile Dabula, thanks for your time. President of Operation Dudula. What do you want to comment? Well, what is your views on that? You have a comment on that? I'm sure you do. We're going to talk about gender-based violence and significant agreements on that and marches, protests today, again, in the midst of G20 right after this.
Reigning champions, the Reds, believe a win at Anfield always brings great euphoria to their fanatics.
He finds a cross. He's down to Ekatike, and Kirkes has given Liverpool a lifeline. His first Liverpool goal, and it could be vital just before the break.
While the Trick-or-Treats are searching for a top-of-the-range strategy to defeat the Reds.
Driven in by Nico Williams. Well, it may have taken Liverpool 95 minutes to break Burnley down.
This is the Premier League. Witness the thrilling contest between Liverpool FC versus Nottingham Forest on Saturday, 22 November at 4:30 p.m. Live on SABC Plus and SABC3. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable. You receive up to 745,000 rand worth of legal services per year. Our range of plans include cover for you, your spouse, children, and extended family. Plans include cover for civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Whether it's protection orders, gender-based violence, uncontested divorce, or poor service, your Clientele Legal lawyer will be there to assist you. Our services are convenient. Simply pick up the phone and call your lawyer or send us an email and we'll get back to you. All plans include a bail benefit of up to 5,000 Rand and will go to the police station and pay it for you. Plus, Clientele Legal offers you 24-hour telephonic legal advice. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
When love turns to hate and hate turns to violence, the truth is never simple. In Love and Hate Crime Season 2, real stories expose the dark side of human emotion, where identity, passion, and prejudice collide. Powerful, unflinching, unforgettable. These are the crimes that challenge what we think we know about love and humanity. Thursdays at 10 p.m. only on S3. S3, open up.
Right, so talking about G20, well, the SABC News Channel 404 is your official host broadcaster for the G20 Summit. So from 5:30 up to 11, you can catch live coverage on SABC2 specifically with continuous G20 programming from 5:30 until midnight on the SABC channel, News Channel 404, right? You can also stream SABC News live on the dedicated G20 pop-up channel on SABC Plus. So there you are. Don't miss it. Don't miss a moment at all of the G20 Summit with SABC News.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Well, I'll tell you what. So, reminder, fireside chat coming up with Yunus Karim, former Minister of Communications. He held that post. He's the author of a new book called Attacking the Heart of Apartheid, the ANC's MK Special Operations Unit, and we'll certainly, get his journey, but also talk about the book as well. Looking forward to that. We should have been chatting to the Minister of Corporate Governance and Traditional Affairs, Minister Tlhabisa, around the issues of gender-based violence and the announcement that it's been declared a state of emergency of sorts, right? But he's been occupied, and I see that as I talk to you. He's at the airport welcoming the French President Emmanuel Macron, and it seems like just about every minute, one leader of another of the countries, from the different countries of the world, are arriving in South Africa. Right. Well, let's talk about gender-based violence. So there's been protests against gender-based violence around the country, right? What about KZN in particular? What's their focus? What have they been doing? The SABC News reporter covering the KZN region is Nontlokonipo Magwaza. Much appreciate your time, and thanks for joining us on the National Pulse.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and to the listeners at home.
Right. So tell me, I mean, myself and Tumi, the sports anchor, spoke about it. People wearing black, people wearing purple, posting purple colored on their social media platforms with messages, or if no messages. What exactly has been planned today?
Indeed, Ashraf, as the rest of the country was also doing a shutdown, KZN has also been in shutdown. We went to we have over 100 men, LGBTQIA community, you name it, organizations, NGOs were there, wearing black, purple, and also speaking in one voice in GBV, come up with a solution, a tangible solution to GBV. Although they were pleased with what the president said, he is declaring it a national crisis. However, they want him to declare it as a national disaster. So they will have tangible plans, and they will have a way forward. They will have action, basically, to deal with the scourge of gender-based.
All right. So, I mean, of course, the protests have been set up to gain and to garner attention a significant time once again with G20. But in many ways, the president confirming that there's now a state of emergency being declared around that. I mean, that is significant, right?
Well, it is. For them, they see it as a way forward, as a step forward. They say that for the women that I spoke to, some of them have been through gender-based violence or survived gender-based violence. Some of them are still going through it. Some of them know family members who have passed away because of gender-based violence and femicide. They're saying that they have had enough of talk, no action. But what the president said declaring it as a national crisis, it's a step forward for them. Though they didn't what they wanted, for him to declare it as a national state of disaster, at least they got something, they got a reaction from the president. Now they are calling for action, to have action to deal with the scourge of gender-based violence, because it's been an ongoing thing. It is a growing thing, especially here in KZN. I may say, Ashraf, that we are the capital of gender-based violence, especially when KZN, Inanda, Umlazi, some of the other places also popping up, Omandeni, and they are recording high cases of gender-based violence, especially with rape cases. So they want those cases to drop, and they want the justice system to not favor perpetrators, because they feel that the justice system here in South Africa.
And just the last thing, I mean, obviously many of the people marching and protesting have their own stories, but are they, and some of those are horrific stories, right? Well, many of them are, of course, right? But do they give a sense of in protesting about, enough is enough and an end to gender-based violence, what do you think needs to be done to actually end just gender-based violence?
Well, they're calling on men. They were men, although they were not as many as they would have liked men to participate, men to be present. Calling on men to speak to other men who have participators of gender-based violence, mostly in most cases, are men, especially men that you're close to, people that you know, and people that you don't know as well. They're calling on men to come and join the bandwagon of fighting gender-based violence. They're calling on government to initiate action, not just talk, not just have campaigns, just to have action to deal with these cases. And for the women and the NGOs who attended this march, they believe that is action, tangible action, harsher sentences for gender-based then they will see a decrease numbers of gender-based violence.
Okay, harsher sentences, and as you said, maybe more action, in this case from males themselves. Thank you for your time in Nhlakanipho. Thanks for joining us, covering that issue of GBV and the global or nationwide protest in this case, specifically referencing the KZN region. Let's get to the news headlines now. It's 4:30.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headline, Secretary to Parliament Xolile George has reissued summons to get the former CEO of the Road Accident Fund, Collins Letsoalo, to appear before the Standing Committee on Public Accounts. The Minister of Justice and Constitutional Development, Mabuloko Kubai, says they're already assessing the work of the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry and Parliament's ad hoc committee, looking at those who are implicated in wrongdoing. And Russia has warned Ukraine will lose more territory on the battlefield unless it reaches a deal on ending the war immediately. A full update follows at the top of the hour with Kumbuzile Tabete.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N1 southbound in Pretoria, queuing towards the R21 highway. The M1 southbound has a crash at Ormonde, and on the R21 southbound in Kempton Park, the G20 Summit convoy operations at Atlas Road exit, so expect delays as convoys move through the area. In KZN, the N3 southbound is slow-moving trucks reported between Hilton and Town Hill. The M7 eastbound is queuing at South Coast Road, and the N2 northbound a crash before Umgeni Road. In Cape Town, the N2 outbound is slow-moving through Somerset West, Helen Suzman Boulevard inbound in Greenpoint, queuing towards Bakengracht Street, and Main Road is slow-moving through Cork Bay. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Domin Khapele.
Right, to me, brings us all the sports, and there's a whole range of things I think you can talk about. Some people are talking about Islands game tomorrow, but What's top of your agenda?
Well, Proteas woman coach Mandla Mashimbi says that including Dane van Niekerk in his squad for the inbound tour against Ireland in December was a no-brainer. The 32-year-old returns to the national team after 4 years, and she headlines a group that includes former retainees Faye Tunnicliffe and leg spinner Seshni Naidu in the T20 squad, joining regulars Laura Vervaat, Sneh Lees, Marizanne Kapp, Clara Tyron, Nadine de Klerk, and Nonkululeko Mlamba.
Quite consistent the last 2 seasons. Last season she started runs and she started well this season as well. So I think it will be a no-brainer looking to the player who is the first good form. Obviously, a name comes with a lot of previous stuff in terms of her being captain and being done well for the team before. But I think he has earned a call-up based on the performances that he's put the last 2 seasons.
Meanwhile, Proteas captain Themba Bavuma is expecting the wicket in Guwahati to behave a lot more like a traditional subcontinent one as they get set to take on India in the second and final test match starting tomorrow.
Yeah, I do think so. I think it'll be more a traditional subcontinent wicket. Good for batting of those 2 days, and then day 3 the spinners should come into play. So I think all the fundamentals that come not playing in the subcontinent. First innings becomes crucial from a batting point of view to really set the game up, and your spinners, in our case, Keshav Maharaj, Sunil Homer, supported by Eden, have them come into the game the second or latter half of the game.
Indian skipper Shubman Gill will miss tomorrow's test because of a neck injury that he sustained in the opening match. In football, the fraud case that is linked to SAFA President Danny Jordan returned to the Palm Ridge court today and co-accused Trevor Neethling once the prosecutor removed, saying that he accessed their private emails. The state must answer these claims by the 28th of November, and the defense will respond by the 5th of December. Well, with this issue to be heard a few days later, and the state also revealed that it almost cancelled Neethling's bail because he interfered with a witness. Meanwhile, Mamelodi Sundowns coach Miguel Cardoso says that he's fully prepared for whatever FC Lupopo might bring when they kick off their CAF Champions League group stage campaign at Loftus tomorrow. The Congolese side arrive with a reputation that precedes them, having knocked out Orlando Pirates in the preliminary round, a tie that has led to the disciplinary action against defender Mukoka Male and coach Guy Bukasa.
We should think about winning the group stage. Winning the group stage is the objective that we have now. Then we settle and we see. We see the important is that we need to win the group stage. And to win that group stage, we need to win the next match. And the next match is the most important match of our lives. That's how we're going to face this match.
Elsewhere, Chelsea's Cole Palmer will be absent for another week because he fractured his toe when he stepped in on a door on Wednesday night. The England forward was set to resume first team training this week. This is after 2 months out with a groin injury, but the 23-year-old will remain out, missing the Blues' next 3 fixtures: tomorrow's Premier League game at Burnley, and then Tuesday's Champions League fixture against Barcelona, and next weekend's match at home to Arsenal. Meanwhile, the Premier League clubs have agreed to replace profit and sustainability rules with the squad cost ratio, which will come into effect from next season. The rules limit clubs to spending no more than 85% of their football revenue and net profit or loss from transfers. Anything's off with rugby. 11 players who featured in South Africa's season-ending HSBC Sevens World Championship victory in Los Angeles will be part of the Blitzbox squad for next weekend's season opener in Dubai. Head coach Philip Snyman has added experienced stalwarts Christy Grobler and Donovan Don to the team, while tweaking his leadership group as well, with MP Visser taking over the captaincy from Salvin Davids, who will share the captaincy or the vice-captain responsibility with Zane Davids. Don't forget that the countdown is on for AFCON 2025. It kicks off in just 30 days from the 21st of December to the 18th of January, and SABC will be broadcasting all 52 matches live on SABC2, and you can also stream them on SABC Plus and they're also providing full coverage on SABC Radio. SABC Sport is the official broadcaster of AFCON 2025. It's game on everywhere, and we're definitely looking forward to it. I'll have more on other sports in the next hour.
Wow, perfect. Looking forward to that. Exciting indeed.
This November, SAFM proudly presents the third annual lecture.
I do want to say that in the public service, there are also check and balances. The fact that people may not have applied doesn't mean it's not there.
SAFM invites you to our third annual public lecture, delivered by Chancellor of the Nelson Mandela University, Dr. Geraldine Fraser Muleketi. The theme of the lecture is confronting inequality, corruption and unemployment.
Let's hold everyone accountable and to standards, whether you have a GNU or not.
The lecture will take place on the 27th of November 2025 at the Indaba Hotel, Spa and Conference Center in Four Ways, Johannesburg. Secure your seat by emailing us at rsvp@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Okay, I'm going to take your calls shortly. I want to hear what you have to say, because you are a reflection of the national pulse. You move that pulse every single day by calling in. So do call in, and you can WhatsApp as well. You have that choice, and you can tweet as well. So call in live, WhatsApp, tweet. I know if you're a regular listener, you'll have those numbers, but I'll give that to you in a moment. Let's, in the meantime, get to Paswane and Patlele, who's got his numbers as well. In fact, before I get to that, right, you need to know this, right? Sanlam Alliance isn't just writing a check. They're helping to drive real purpose-led conversations on the future of business in Africa, financial inclusion, job creation, education, and resilient growth. So in this case, remember, Sanlam Alliance is a proud lead sponsor of the B20 Summit, the official business dialogue forum of the G20, and for 2025, a historic first on African soil. So by supporting this historic summit here in Johannesburg, Sanlam Alliance, in fact, it's Sanlam Alliance, is putting Africa's voice at the heart of global policy. Sanlam Alliance, empowering generations to be financially confident, secure, and prosperous. Right, now,
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
and now we get those numbers with Paswane and Patlele from Makwe Fund Managers. Paswane, you got news local and global.
Definitely, yeah. Afternoon and afternoon to your listeners. We got like data globally, and we talked to the likes of Eurozone that reflected steady growth at 52.2 points. Not much change from last month, but it held good momentum as thanks to the service sector, while manufacturing still supported from that economy, and just marginally though as a decline. Meanwhile, the UK were at 5. The service sector did a significant decline, while manufacturing is still moving to expansion. When you look at the US, you got that data on that front, and it released investment main concern about the AI battle, especially when you think of the pressure it comes to when it is highly leveraged within the market. We are now being a challenge when you see the slowdown in the US, challenging it. Globally, we are talking a filtering of development. The market price, but in December, in the US, it's going above 50%. At the back of our key members now talking to the idea that we should have that flat quarter of gold now at $4,070 an ounce, still bullish trend. While oil is still bearish at $60, it is by that demand now returning to China, Europe, even the US is easing. Geopolitical risk is actually easing. Bitcoin is still lower bullish. As for dollars, we can $4,000. Looking to manage the sellers that are out below $80 is still a pay at this point in time. When you look at weekly losses, that some rebound in different markets. US rebound. Think of the Dow, S&P up. Europe is down tech down 0.3, flat on the tech and FTSE. Yes, is driven by a down 1.2 overstated by these investments. Looking at the rand, we are seeing weakness rand against the and against the user rand and rand against the pound to 270.
Okay, got that. Thanks for that, Paswane. We'll connect again, next week. I know that.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
All right, time to get to your calls. By the way, let me remind you, we chat to Yunus Karim later on, former Minister of Communications, but now, and of course, member of the African National Congress and the SACP, he's put together a book called "Attacking the Heart of Apartheid," which really is a dive into understanding the minds of the ANC's MK Special Operations Unit. So, looking forward to that conversation and a whole lot more. But for now, I need to talk to you. 086 000 2032. What about a first-time caller? I need to hear a few more first-time callers, male and female. Young and old, young, let me specify that too. And then you can WhatsApp 0614 104 107, text or voice note, right? So here's your thoughts.
Hi, good afternoon. Ashraf Nora here. Ashraf, I hear a lot from people criticizing what Operation Dudula does, although I might not agree with some of their methods. These illegal immigrants, they don't go to your leafy suburbs. They come straight to our townships. We have to live with them. We have to live with the crimes that they commit. We have to share the spaces in our clinics, in our schools, and everywhere. We don't go to private hospitals. We don't go to private schools, our children. We have to deal with them. So the people who are always saying, no, South Africans are xenophobic, because they don't have to deal with them at all. We're only saying that people must come here legally. And we can't feed our own. How can you take your neighbor's kids when you can't even feed your own children?
Look, I hear what you said, and I don't think anybody denies it. I think we've botched up a lot in terms of South Africa's immigration policy, and I think it's cost us plenty. But then Operation Dulula is not the only people doing something about this issue, so I hear that.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and this is SFM Business. Ashraf, in South Africa, to get political mileage and recognition, you must talk about foreign nationals. That's number one. Number two, in South Africa, Ashraf, a foreign national is a black person from another African country. That's number two. Number three, Operation Dudula, it's an sort of employment company now, because that's where they are putting food on their table. So they must talk as much as they can about foreign nationals. Thanks, James Johannesburg.
They must talk as much as, well, look, they are doing so, and many others are doing so too, just so that you know, right? Let's get to a caller, Malusi in Limpopo. Hello, Malusi.
Ashraf, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yeah, go for it.
Yes.
Yes, I do. Go for it.
All right. I want to talk about Eskom. Remember they made a right? The 13 billion.
Yeah.
But now here's my challenge. I'm a man working, and I've got my own dedicated transformer. Guess what? Last week, I realized that if I buy 1,000 rand of electricity, I only get 900. And I'm not even a businessman. I'm just an ordinary man. And when I inquire, I've done all inquiries. My what is kilowatt an hour is 9 rand. Meaning if I buy a 10 rand, I get 1. Can you sometimes bring someone from to explain this? An ordinary man paying a 9 rand kilowatt an hour. If I buy 10 rand electricity, I only get.
Yeah. Well, okay. I think, I can't answer that. I clearly can't. Thanks for raising it on the National Pulse, because it's an important agenda setter. And perhaps maybe, next week sometime we can look into that once again. It's something we've touched on before, but we need to, I agree with you, we need to touch on it again. Thanks for that call, Malusi. Right.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. As a strong critic of Cyril Ramaphosa and the ANC and what they've done to South Africa, I still, though, feel that the stance that they take sometimes is a very well thought out stance, not trying to play into the hands of America. Donald Trump seems to throw his toys out the cot too often, and because he hasn't got his way with other things, land expropriation and all the rest of it, he's now like a spoiled brat. I am a supporter, or have been a supporter of him, but I tell you what, sometimes I'm not. This is Mike in Hillcrest, KZN.
Okay, well, Mike has maybe, said it like it is, certainly from his own perspective, right? What about your perspective?
Ashraf, Craig, I think you hit the nail on the head. Why don't South Africa, as the organisers or conveners or whatever current runners of the event, just simply say to America, why didn't they say noted? And just leave it at that. Because exactly as you said, all the rest of the G20 are coming. Let them come, let them communicate, let them agree and discuss and come to whatever arrangements there are. And if America doesn't want to come, that's their problem. The majority rules.
Well, the question is, do the majority truly rule? You see, that goes back to the issue of the United Nations Security Council, where the majority does not rule. Just say.
Afternoon, Ashraf. Afternoon, SFM listeners. Ashraf, I like Trump very much. He's killing that image of America, or the stature that it used to have. He's taking it down the drain. I like that guy. He's from Bloemfontein.
Okay, I have a sense you're dealing in satire, but fine.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. This is Samson Bloemfontein. This lady from US, maybe I misheard her that our president has been running her mouth saying that the US is participating in the G20. If I heard that correctly, she should be ashamed talking like that about our president. Cannot speak to like that about head of a state of another nation.
Well, look, I hear what you're saying about cannot speak. Yeah, listen, listen. There's been a Cold War. Let's agree on that between South Africa and the USA for a good few months now, and you know what's fueled it, right?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Hi, Ashraf. This press secretary of the White House in the United States is disrespecting our president, man. Hey, we can't have that girl saying those things. Our president is running his mouth. That's disrespectful, man. She needs to respect us.
I hear you.
Ashraf, this Samson Bloemfontein. This lady from
Okay,
US.
wait. That one we've played already. Got that. Here's another.
Good afternoon, Asha, and good afternoon to the listeners as a whole. According to my view, I like all the leaders, including the African leaders. They must come together and solve the issue of unemployment. It's not only South Africa, all over the world. So the government must work with private companies to employ or to create jobs for the people, because government won't manage alone. And we must stop blaming the president, because president doesn't own any company. Amen.
Well, listen, you can debate about who owns what, but it is a far bigger job in terms of growth. But the argument counter to that has been that the business must make profits, otherwise they're not going to be in business. They must make a profit. There's been a counter argument, they make far too much. On the other hand, there's been too much at state level that's been pilfered and siphoned off, and it has undermined South Africa's ability to sustain itself as a state, and that then undermines companies' abilities to make a profit, which means that they no do business in this country, and that means less jobs, and there's less money for all of us, which means we buy less. Can you see what a horrific cycle that is? That has got to change. This is the National Pulse.
This season, make Christmas magic together with Spar and Super Savings. Like 400ml Pantene shampoo or conditioner. Buy any two for 100 Rand, plus 250 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Or 6-pack Clover Classic Smooth Yogurt. Buy any two for 36 Rand, plus 100 megs free data on Spar Mobile. Prices valid from 10 to 23 November 2025, while stocks last. T's and C's apply.
Zinzi, the Gen Z. Word on the street is you sold your car.
Yes, and I needed a glow up. Hashtag no hustle, no hassle.
So wait. The influencer got influenced by We Buy Cars.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And they came to me. They checked the car, they gave me an offer. Oh, and they paid me immediately. Easier than an Insta Live, without the weird DMs at 2 a.m.
I didn't understand half of the things you just said, but hey, we buy cars. Geared for the glow up, geared for you.
What's one more thing you can do for a child today? Could it be one clinic visit for their next vaccination?
Or say something that will really tickle my brain.
Maybe one healthy lunchbox snack to fuel their day.
Or say something that makes me feel good about myself.
Or one strong no to alcohol in your home.
Just one thing today could change our tomorrow. Visit holdmyhand.org.za.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
And there's even more calls from you. So come on, let's hear what you have to say, because we'll take calls and comments from you up to 5 o'clock, right? So let me remind you, a lot of the conversations we have outside the Madlanga Commission and the Parliamentary Ad Hoc Committee are put up as podcasts, so you can go to the website, safm.co.za, you'll find it. And do find it, listen to it, download it, share it with your friends. They really, I must tell you, there's not a day that I go by when I meet people. They are so aware of, just SAFM in general as a station, and then this show, The National Pulse, in terms of setting the agenda for what is it that drives the nation's pulse every single day, right? Here's another.
Ashraf, good afternoon. I wish you can take this voice note to that US girl and tell her that Trump is running his mouth about South Africa since he assumed office. The only president in the world running his mouth is Trump. Just tell that guy.
Okay, Trump is the one running his mouth. I think really, and I think the caller made the point as well. Listen, USA is important. I would never dismiss them as a country because of their strategic importance to the world. But at some stage, you also just have to say, look, let's just hold it. We can't have the Americans, their presence or their absence, be the most important thing at a G20 when there's people from around the world here. We've got the business of G20 to do. It's been going on for months on end. Do not allow yourself to be sidetracked. It's like, spectators pulling out red cards and yellow cards to sin bin and sending people up. I mean, really, they can only do so much. Let's just get on with the business of G20. I think that's important.
Hi, Ashraf. I recently spent some time at the Libombo border here in Mpumalanga. I spoke with a lot of truck drivers. Those guys, sometimes it takes them more than 1 day or sometimes 2 days to go into Mozambique. It will take them a full day parked there by the side of the road. And they tell me that there's illegal foreigners from Mozambique who come there and attack them. They will come and break the truck while you're inside there and rob you. And the police are just watching and doing nothing. I got to speak to some police guys who were there. Some showed me the trails where the illegal foreigners come through, but they're not doing anything, man. They're just sitting there. It's funny what's happening in this country.
They're not doing anything. All right.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Hope you're well. With regards what Cyril said in terms of the United States participating, why is it that South Africa constantly has to draw out a speech and make as if they are still negotiating and things when in actual fact they're not? So I think the US were fully within their right, because the actual memo to South Africa stated that it was just for participation for the handover of the declaration. That is all. So why they go on and try and, it just infuriates the hell out of people.
Yeah, but I mean, but thanks for that. But are you listening to the US and Trump's comments just about every day on other issues, including South Africa? I mean, just not like even a couple of days ago. Are you listening to those conversations? I'm not saying Ramaphosa's right. I would have just let it be, seriously speaking. And yes, I think it was interpreted by some people as they've actually joined in, even though they were talking about like the charge d'affaires as opposed to a full scale thing. That I think we knew. But now the interpretation of joining in with the summit at the 11th hour versus simply coming there to attend to receive, let's call it documents, right? I understand there's a difference. Some may say, but in fact, it's still, it reflects participation. Now, either way, I think there's been a bitter war of words for weeks on end, and whereas we may say Ramaphosa is wrong in this one, I can tell you now, if you follow Trump's comments, and I'm not talking to his press secretary, Trump's comments of the last few days alone, sure, man, that is just the way you do not communicate to the world and win favors. You do not do that. Just go through it and you'll see. And I'm serious.
Hello, Ashraf. Seeing is believing, and we're watching Trump. We saw what happened to Biden. We saw with Obama. They all talk and no action. But Trump is a man of action. That is why they tried to kill him. Trump is getting on with business. America is going strong and stronger. The economy is going strong and stronger. And people and countries that partner with Trump, their economies is getting strong and stronger, like Argentina. No, South Africa needs to wake up, man. China and Russia is just taking advantage of us. It's a win-lose situation with Russia and China. Russia wins and we lose. China wins and we lose. But with America, we can win. It can be a win-win situation. Thank you.
Vincent, I really don't know if I agree with you. You see, when we talk about a man of action, it suggests that action doesn't necessarily translate into good deeds, does it? So when we talk about Trump being a man of action, are you truly suggesting that everything he's done from the time that he lost that first election, and then came back now to become re-elected president of the USA, and regarding South Africa, and regarding his pronouncements about Canada and Panama and Gaza and Palestine and everything else, everything about his man of action has been terrific? Like, really, what is there to admire about that part? And then what he said about South Africa, is that the type of action, seriously, that you're talking about?
Trump is stepping to everybody's toes. He was telling the mayor of New York that he is a communist. Ramaphosa didn't say that. He said there is a notification of participation, but they are not sure in what way or in what form, but they are still engagements. He said they were not, he never said they're coming to participate fully.
Okay, got that one right. I think that's about it for now. So what we'll do, as you know, so we haven't done this in weeks, right? And we haven't done this in weeks, but we're going to do it today. The fireside chat, and my guest is the former Minister of Communications. I mean, that's just one part of it. He's done so many other things, as you know. Still, I think very much part of the SACP Politburo and part of the ANC, but effectively retired. What is he doing now? We'll find out. Let's get the news first. It's 5 o'clock. Here's Kombuzile Tabete.
Thank you, Ashraf. Your top stories: Parliament summons former REF CEO again, and veteran Lotus FM talk presenter Zakia Ahmed Siddiqui to be laid to rest today. Good afternoon. Secretary to Parliament Xolile George has reissued summons to get the former CEO of the Road Accident Fund, Collins Letswalo, to appear before the Standing Committee on Public Accounts. SCOPA is conducting an inquiry into possible maladministration at the fund. SCOPA chairperson Songezo Zibi says summons were issued earlier this month for Letswalo to appear before the committee next week, Tuesday. He says despite several attempts by the sheriff to serve them at his known addresses, that has been unsuccessful. Zibi says the summons have been reissued to Parliament so that they can additionally be served electronically on all of its platforms. Justice and Constitutional Development Minister Mamoluko Kubai says they're already assessing the work of the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry and Parliament's ad hoc committee looking at those who are implicated in wrongdoing. The two investigations were established to investigate wide-ranging allegations made by KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi in July about criminal infiltration, corruption and political interference in the justice system. The minister was briefing the Portfolio Committee on Justice and Constitutional Development. Kubai says there's nothing prohibiting the law from taking its course.
We are also dealing with some of the issues that are needed. As I said, in the prosecutorial environment, the issue is that the ethics office works and deals with the issues of that. If we look at Honorable Member, and I don't want to go into detail because things are great as government, but we're not going to run commentary throughout.
5,000 people have died in the first 10 months of the year in South Africa due to gender-based violence. That's according to the coordinator of the National Lie Down and Shut Down event in Durban, Avela Sizani. She says on average, 15 women die per day as the scourge of GBV continues in the country. Addressing people at the event on the Durban beachfront, Sizani called for the campaign to deny GBV-accused bail to be intensified.
We're witnessing scary rates. I mean, from 5,000 plus people dying in a matter of almost like 10 months, 15 women per day. We want to be taken more seriously as women, children, and the community of the LGBTQ plus in this country. We're hoping that not only will they see and hear us, that they will also take drastic measures in order to protect us from our daily moves.
The funeral service of popular veteran Lotus FM talk presenter Zakia Ahmed Siddiqui is expected to take place at the family home in Durban this evening. The friendly and much-loved broadcaster passed away earlier today while recuperating from surgery. She'll be laid to rest according to Islamic rites. Zakia has had a career in radio that spanned more than 4 decades and was always known for her warmth, musical knowledge, and her signature smile that could be heard on air. She's survived by her 2 children. Family representative Salma Tassin Kazi Wahab has confirmed the passing.
We request your du'as, prayers, and support during this difficult time as we come to terms with our loss. Funeral arrangements are currently being finalized and details will be shared in due course. May Allah grant her the highest stages of Jannah and grant the family sabr and strength.
And finally, Russia has warned Ukraine will lose more territory on the battlefield unless it reaches a deal on ending the war immediately. The U.S. handed President Volodymyr Zelensky a draft peace plan yesterday, which reportedly reflects many of Moscow's demands, such as giving up land. But the president of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, says Kiev must be consulted on any peace deal.
We have been working intensely with President Zelensky and the coalition of the willing for a just and a lasting peace. We will discuss the situation both with European leaders. I will also reach out to President Zelensky to discuss the matter. Important is a key principle we have always upheld, and that is nothing about Ukraine without Ukraine.
Recapping the top story, Secretary to Parliament Xolile George has reissued summons to get the former CEO of the Road Accident Fund, Collins Letswalo, to appear before the Standing Committee on Public Accounts. SCOPA is conducting an inquiry into possible maladministration at the fund. For SFM News at 5 o'clock, I'm Kumbuzile Tabete. Your headlines at 5:30.
In sports, the Sour Chiefs eyeing CAF Confed Cup win this weekend. Mashimbi welcomes Fanigar back to Island Tour, and Blitzbox name strong squad for Dubai season opener. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, rain across parts of the Gauteng province, so you're asked to reduce your speeds and drive with absolute care in these affected areas. The M1 northbound is queuing towards Woodney Drive, and the N1 southbound in Pretoria, a stationary vehicle at Rigel Avenue. In KZN, the N3 westbound has a crash at the M13 Paradise Valley interchange, the N2 northbound a crash before Mgeni Road, and the N3 eastbound a stationary truck after Cliffdale. In Cape Town, the R44 southbound in Somerset West has a crash after Winery Road. Retreat Road eastbound has a crash at the M5 Prince George Drive Junction, and Marine Drive outbound in Pardon Island, slow moving towards Boundary Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
When love turns to hate and hate turns to violence, the truth is never simple. In Love and Hate Crime Season 2, real stories expose the dark side of human emotion. where identity, passion, and prejudice collide. Powerful, unflinching, unforgettable. These are the crimes that challenge what we think we know about love and humanity. Thursdays at 10 p.m. only on S3. S3, open up. Yes.
The best of the good life is coming back in 2026. But first off, Billings, Jonathan, Fez, and myself reunite for a road trip to the top beaches in SA. Kraalbaai, Camps Bay, Boulders Beach, and Nature's Valley. Don't miss the Top Billing Reunion Special, Thursday 27th November at 7 p.m. with repeat Saturday 29th at 3 and Sunday the 30th at 1 p.m. S3, open up.
Right, we're going to get to the fireside chat in just a moment, right? But for now, just remember this, right? South Africa is taking its place on the world stage at the B20 and now the G20 summits, the leadership summit, that is. Telkom is proud to stand with the nation, building a digital future that reaches every community through reliable fiber, mobile and cloud networks. Telkom is connecting families, small businesses, and young people to new opportunities. Telkom is helping drive digital public infrastructure so services are easier to access for all. Telkom, the digital backbone of South Africa's future.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
And talking of G20, you know that SABC, well, the news channel 404 specifically, is the official broadcast channel of the G20 summit, so you can catch wall-to-wall coverage on that channel. Right now, we have not had a fireside chat. In fact, we do. We have a fireside chat every single Friday. We've always had it since I've returned to SAFM, but we haven't not had it for about a month for a couple of reasons, but specifically also 2 weeks away. I was away, in Germany and France, but I'm back home now, and the very first of the fireside chats, and hopefully we'll run with a whole lot of it up to the end of the to the holiday period, is Yunus Karim, right? So he's done many things, including now, just very imminently, the author of a book called Attacking the Heart of Apartheid, which I must touch on because it gives us an insider insight into MK's Special Operations Unit. So Yunus is online. He's going to connect with us via Zoom. Yunus, appreciate your time and thanks for joining us here on the National Pulse.
Well, thanks for having me, and good afternoon to yourself and your listeners.
Thank you so much. And I specifically said Yunus 3 times because I wanted to know, how do you get addressed now? Do we say Yunus, former minister? What's your title now?
No.
Honorable? I don't know. You tell me.
No, of course not. I'm an ordinary citizen, so it's Yunus. What else?
Yeah.
And I was a minister very briefly before I got fired, so that's how the times matters. And I'm not a member of parliament. The honorable falls away. Though I've always found that term antiquated. I've barely used it. I would say member so-and-so. And the question does arise, how many of us are honorable, even when I was there? So I don't like that term. I've very rarely used it. And I don't think it should be used, but hey, it's not for me to decide.
And what should it be replaced by? If not honorable.
Well,
no, I don't mean for you. I don't mean for you. Let's say in Parliament now. Yeah.
We can say Mr. or Ms. or whatever, or we can say member. Initially, when you got there in 1994, in the rules, you could say member so-and-so, member so-and-so. What's the problem with that?
Well, I agree with you, just so that you know that. I personally find the word honorable very uncomfortable to say.
The thing, Ashraf, is you'll bump into people who still call you a minister. I have to keep reminding them that's ancient history. I'm not a traditional leader. Once you're not a minister, you're not a minister. The title falls away. So, and then they call you chairperson. And even now, some people call me chairperson, but I'm not a chairperson. I'm an ordinary citizen, please. Anyway.
Well, thanks for clearing all that up, Yunus Karim. And we're going to chat to you for the next, 45, 50 minutes or so, right? So tell me, so in terms of, public standing, so, yes, many people know you've been a minister of, you've been a minister, I think, at two levels, right? Communications and the other?
I was deputy minister
Deputy,
for 4
yes.
years, which I
Yeah.
really liked.
Okay.
Yeah, POCT as it was called, basically local government.
Mm.
I really like that period because I travel a lot throughout the country.
Interesting. I mean, there's a Salga local government event coming up in Durban. I think on Wednesday, in fact, and we more than likely, well, the show will be there to take it all in. So that's just by the way. You would have ordinarily been there at a different time. What's it like being What's it been like for you then to, let's call it, step out of? I don't know whether it's a question of limelight, but to step out of like public service responsibility.
I'm not sure that I have. I've left Parliament. I was there for 30 years, far too long. Of course, I became politically active when I was in high school in 1971. So long before I went to Parliament, I was a political activist. And since I've left Parliament, so I serve, of course, on the Politburo in the Central Committee of the South African Communist Party, which, as you know, has chosen to stand for elections next year on our own, which is a huge task. I continue to serve in the ANC's Moses Mabhida Regional Task Team, although my role there is limited. That's the Pietermaritzburg constituency area. And I work with NGOs and community organizations. So people ask me, what's it like to be retired? I think it's a retired Parliament, but you're not retired from politics. You continue to be active to the day you drop dead.
I think that's a good point. But you also said you were in Parliament, MP for 30 years, and you said far too long. So why were you there for far too long? If you agreed it was for far too long.
Yes, that's a very good point. I think, firstly, that I was part of the National Assembly by the 2019, and then I was asked to go to the NCOP, which I agreed to do because of the case made for that. In other words, they said that, look, they need people with institutional memory, people who've been around, and people who've come from the struggle era. So as time goes on, obviously, more and more of the MPs are not of the struggle generation. And I thought the NCOP would be a challenge. What I miss most about Parliament, I must say, is constituency work. Because there, you get an outcome. You know, when you pass legislation, you have to follow up, decide how it's affected, and it takes years to have results. Whereas when you take up a constituency matter, if it's a home affairs matter or a pension matter, you have an outcome. Either it's accepted, the representations made to a government, it's rejected, and you pursue why it's rejected, and they'll give you good answers, and you say, okay, to the constituent, you don't have a case. You get outcome. That I miss. But apart from that, I feel I'm doing what I should be doing at my age. I'm 69, mind you. How long can you remain in Parliament? In any case, with the ANC having got 40%, what prospect was there for me to get re-elected? Not that that's the reason I stepped down. I did in December 2023 when I hadn't expected to do so badly. There you are. We are where we are. And can't give up. The struggle continues in different areas of society, not just in Parliament. Civil society is crucial. More than ever, actually. And these are things I've not been saying, no, mind you. When I was Deputy Minister of Health, I kept saying we need a strong, active civil society to put pressure on the state. And I kept saying to people in civil society, you can't trust the state or my party or the government or me as Deputy Minister. You really have to take up struggles to put pressure on us. It's not something new. I'm not saying it now opportunistically. You can look it up if you like. But you see, I must remember, because remember, ultimately, and partly it's about the book. The book argues that ultimately, although the ANC led the liberation of our country and brought us to 1994 and beyond, it's the masses primarily that brought about this democracy. It's their struggles, and they, in fact, through their own struggles, unbanned the ANC. So we need, as I said recently, marriage stuff. You need a new UDF type structure. Brings the broadest range of civil society organizations together to work with the state, where we do sensible, good things like basic income grant and deliver services at other levels. But where we do stupid things, or we're behaving in a corrupt, factionless manner, they must confront us. So it's a dialectic, if you like, of contestation with the state and also cooperation with it.
Is AfriForum an example of civil society being very, very active and putting pressure on government in terms of what they see government is doing wrong?
Well, there is civil society structure, but they certainly take up causes of a particular strata of people, mostly, not always, And they are not, I think, at ease with the democracy we have. Yet this democracy space to do what they do. They don't often take up progressive courses. They don't seem to respect this government. And they and others linked to them right now campaigning vigorously in the US and elsewhere to isolate this government and to present arguments about this country of ours, this society of ours that's hold no water. I mean, they are also completely behind the US's attitude, if not significantly behind the US's attitude right now, in particular, towards our country at this very moment. The major G20 leadership summits taking place this very weekend.
So let's go back then to where it all started for you. Your sense of being, socially aware and therefore politically active. I mean, so you're from Maritzburg or Peter Maritzburg, I know, but yeah, let's start at the very early days. Well, what's the Yunus Karim story?
Well, very quickly, at the age of 16, I became politically and socially aware. There are a variety of reasons for it, far too long to, in this limited time and space, engage in. But interestingly, as I've asked this question many times, as I pointed out strangely, it's the Daily News and so on, which I used to read after my father passed away. He had a subscription, so to speak. Not a subscription, he had paid ahead of time, for the whole month, I think, to a shop where I was doing collected for him. And I began to understand that it's not normal. It's very petty, the awareness about separate beaches and separate park benches. The liberal media is to focus on that, not quite apartheid, but small apartheid. And strangely, in school, we had this very conservative textbook, Hay and Boyce, A History of South Africa. And we looked also at the French Revolution. So liberty, equality, and fraternity resonated. Don't ask me why. And then the very next chapter was the Russian Revolution. And of course, it's a very conservative interpretation. But what stung me was the sense of saying some people can't be over rich while others are over poor. So in my own crude, instinctive way, I became a Marxist at the age of 16. And I shall remain a Marxist until I drop dead. But I have no illusions of the world proletarian revolution in my lifetime. But I do think unless we address class, gender, racial, and other inequalities in society, we will never succeed, really. So I have a moderate, temperate, incremental approach to values that underpin Marxism. The way Marxism was not like that set of iron laws of history. It's a way, a method of looking at society. It provides an ethical framework for action and a set of broad goals. And those, to me, remain alive now, as they did a century and a half ago. Although we have to be modest, it's achievable. We have to link with early civil society structures, climate justice issues, LGBTQ plus, gender, things that weren't there, so on.
How is, I mean, your point about, you can't have people too wealthy when there are too many people too poor. I mean, it's just very, very telling, right? But was there a moment for you, I mean, that is you reading, but was there a moment for you in apartheid South Africa where something happened to you, a physical action? Maybe you met a police officer, or you went to the post office and they said whites only on this side. Many of us have those stories. Was there that sort of moment that sort of stung for you? Is like, no, man, this what we're living in is just unacceptable. And then it sparked off something in you?
No, I didn't have that. I came from a typical lower middle class Indian family. So, it wasn't like I was severely disadvantaged. But I think that, as I said, my initial grievances were very petty. It was about petty apartheid, Why can't I go to that swimming pool? There are more than one along the Marine Parade in Durban. It's restricted to whites. Why must I sit for a non-white bench at the park, which is now, of course, the Harry Gwala Stadium there now, big park, Alexandra Park as it's known, and so on. Why sit at the Royal Showgrounds? We need to go on separate days.
Yeah. So just pause on that. I think those are important questions. And yes, we all dabbled with it one way or the other. Yunus Karim with me on the Fireside Chat.
The best of the good life is coming back in 2026. But first off, Billings, Jonathan, Fez, and myself reunite for a road trip to the top beaches in SA. Kraalbaai, Camps Bay, Boulders Beach, and Nature's Valley. Don't miss the Top Billing Reunion Special, Thursday 27th November at 7 p.m. with repeat Saturday 29th at 3 and Sunday the 30th at 1 p.m. S3, open up.
Clientele is here to safeguard you and your family with compassion because life happens. Be part of a family that truly cares. Our funeral dignity plans have helped South Africans bury their loved ones with dignity for more than 30 years. Let us help you create a meaningful tribute that honors your life and those of your loved ones. We pay out within 24 hours and you will get double accident cover with a clientele funeral plan. Our plans are affordable. Pick the option that suits your needs. Easy to apply, no medical examinations, and no paperwork. SMS SAFM to 48031. That's 48031. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
This week on BBC Primetime, watching TV could make you a winner. It's the BBC Primetime Watch and Win competition. Just tune into your BBC Primetime shows, answer a few simple questions on S3's TikTok account, and you could walk away with awesome prizes. From thrilling dramas to jaw-dropping reality shows, the more you watch, the more chances you have to win. Watch, answer, win. Only on BBC Primetime. Airs weeknights 9 to 11 p.m. on S3. Your couch just became the best seat in the game.
Right, chatting to Yunus Karim, the former MP, former honourable, if you call it that, as per our earlier conversation, but now just a citizen living in Pietermaritzburg, but the author of a book called Attacking the Heart of Apartheid, which I want to talk about now. But in the meantime, South Africa is taking its place on the world stage, first with the B20 and now, of course, with the G20 Leaders Summit coming up over the next couple of days, right? So Telkom is proud to stand with the nation, building a digital future that reaches every community. Through reliable fiber, mobile and cloud networks, Telkom has connected families, small businesses, and young people to new opportunities. And they're helping drive digital public infrastructure, so services are easier to access for all. Telkom, the digital backbone of South Africa's future.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Right, with the fireside chat, the first after a long break with Yunus Karim, the author of Attacking the Heart of Apartheid. So I'm lifting up the book, Yunus. Of course, you've seen it, but I want to get it on camera as well. Tell me about the book. Why? I mean, it's always the important question. Why? Why the book?
Well, quite simply because those of us who are activists and the broader South African public were aware of that major Sasol 31st of May 1980 operation, where those explosions occurred in 3 Sasol plants, more or less within, I think, 45 minutes. We heard of the attack on the Voortrekker SADF, the Army military base. Of course, it was a brilliant Kubel operation and so on. What we didn't know, most of us, was that there was a specific unit of Umkhonto we Sizwe called Special Operations that had carried out these and other major high-profile, high-visibility attacks on economic and military targets, strategic ones. And so it is that when the TRC process began, Truth and Reconciliation hearings, we heard that there was this unit. And I asked about it. And to my astonishment, I tried to find out information, and discovered there was very little written about it. And yet they were one of the most effective MK units ever. And I asked why that was the case. And I got finally referred to a guy who's still known by his MK name, Rashid. His name was actually Ismail Abu Bakr.
Okay.
And they said, well, he's the only surviving commander. Speak to him. And I did. And he told me that, look, in the last days of Joe Slovo's life in 1994, Slovo had asked him to write up the history of special ops. And he said he'd do it, but he never got around to doing it. And years later, many years later, about 10, 12 years later, I reached out to him and asked him how his book was going. He finally came around to him saying, look, I'm not going to have the time and space to do it, but you can work on it and I'll cooperate. So he did. And he gave me, I think, over 40 hours of his time for interviews, as did Ernest Pule, who was like effectively the longest serving deputy commander, if you like. And so it is that I got to writing it. And what struck me was when I reached out to people who are still alive, it's difficult to locate them because they were operating under MK names and their real names are not known even to their fellow unit members or even the commanders. So I had a very difficult time tracing people, giving their cell phone numbers and so on. And Ernest Pule, to a lesser extent, I suppose Rashid, they were outstanding in how that regard. And then I found enormous enthusiasm for the book. People wanted the stories heard. They wanted to say to the public, but they wanted their families to know what they've done. And four of them were very emotional. One had tears glimmering in his eye, the other had tears rolling down his cheek to say, look, in all these years, comrade, nobody has ever asked us what we did. Nobody in Chalaz, nobody in the ANC. And so I found like this considerable cooperation, much to my surprise. And people would not let me go, you know. I had flights to take and I allocated 2 hours for the interview. And 5 hours later, people were still saying, no, I haven't started yet, so to speak. So I learned a lot from this process. These people have never really been acknowledged as other MK comrades. And it's because of the overwhelming cooperation that I got this book going. And I'd like to stress, Ashraf, I know the format of your program on Friday, but this is not about me. Ashraf. I didn't make that history. They made that history. They're the heroes and the heroines of our struggle. And I just happened to write it. And it's not a big deal, Ashraf. I'm a journalist, so what's the big deal? I'm a former sociologist. And the book wrote itself, as I keep saying. You know, I want to say to you, the easiest part was writing the book because the interviews they gave me were such wonderful interviews. And they're all going to be on South Africa History Online and the Nelson Mandela Foundation archives. Castro Quela wants it, some universities want it. Half of it is already, I think, lodged next Friday on these websites. So that in future, students wanting to do honors and master's theses, or journalists wanting to follow this, or others want to write books about it, they can access that. I've got all the TRC documents that I could get. I've got a wonderful set of press clippings, thanks to the Bessie Head Library, Adams and Duthie. I've got 103 interviews running into 162 hours of recordings of 48 people. And that history is the people's history. And in future generations should write about it.
Well, I tell you what, I'm going to go through some of them just after the news break. But just a quick one before that. I mean, you said many of them said nobody has asked them, nobody within government or the ANC. They just haven't asked them. How did they feel about it? The absence of the need to tell their story by others beforehand.
Yes, I think they really felt aggrieved about it. And in the preface of the book, I convey that hopefully. They were thrilled that somebody bothered to come to them. They were quite hurt, actually. And you know, they get their self-worth, in my view, their self-esteem to some extent, through what they did then.
Yeah.
And they generally are very much unhappy with where the ANC is now. So they retreat in a nostalgic form to the past, and they derive their self-worth from it. And for them, that's their life. That's what made them feel that they contributed. And when they looked, and still look, I'm doing all these book launches, it comes up again, at what's going on now, they can't believe. Though I must stress, Ashraf, I asked all of them, if you had known then, during the struggle era, when you were prepared to give your life, right, what we would become now. And I say we, including me, I'm complicit in the ANC and the country, right? I'm saying we. Would you still have done what you did? Except for one person, Ashraf, all of them said no. We'd still have done it because apartheid was so destructive and so dehumanizing.
Fascinating. Well, I'll tell you what, in the 10 or 15 minutes we'll have later on, I want you just to run through some of those stories. Because I think it's important that we can get some of those stories out on air. Chatting to Yunus Karim. Let's do this. We're gonna have sport. We're gonna have the markets update. But first up, the news headlines. Just go on 5:30.
Thank you, Ashraf. I'm Kumbuzile Tabete with your headlines at 5:30. Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities Minister Sindisiwe Chikunga has welcomed President Cyril Ramaphosa's declaration of gender-based violence a national crisis. Secretary to Parliament Xolile George has reissued summons to get the former CEO of the Road Accident Fund, Collins Litswalo, to appear before the Standing Committee on Public Accounts. And Johannesburg Emergency Services are urging motorists to exercise caution whilst driving this evening following a level 1 alert for severe thunderstorms and heavy rains. I'll have details of these and other stories at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N14 westbound in Lanseria has delays towards the R512 Malibongwe Drive exit. The G20 Summit convoy operations at Baklu interchange underway, so expect delays as convoys move through the area. Bayes Nordia Drive westbound in Honeydew is where a jackknife truck is reported before Jew Street, and Bowling Avenue in Wendywood has a crash reported near Alma Street. In KZN, the N3 westbound queuing towards Cliffdale, the N3 eastbound queuing towards Key Ridge, and the N3 westbound queuing towards Spaghetti Junction. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound has a crash before Plattekloof Road reported, Marine Drive outbound in Pardon Island, slow moving at Woodbridge Island, and on the R44 southbound in Somerset West, there's a crash after Winery Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Domin Kapele.
Right, Jimmy, you've got, the countdown to AFCON.
Yeah, it's on, and AFCON 2025 kicks off just in 30 days from the 21st of December to the 18th of January 2026. SABC will broadcast all 52 matches live on SABC2 and stream them on SABC Plus, and also provide full coverage on SABC Radio. SABC Sport is the official broadcaster of AFCON 2025, and it's game on everywhere. Meanwhile, Kaizer Chiefs are settling into their new surroundings in Egypt, and sporting director Kaizer Motaung Jr. believes that 3 points is within reach against Al Masry on Sunday. The two teams lock horns in the CAF Confed Cup group stage opening match at Suez Stadium on Sunday. In a tough Group D, which also features Egyptian giants Zamalek and Zambian side Zesco United, Motaung Jr. knows that a win in their fixture could set the tone for the tournament.
I think an important 3 points on the board from the get-go is very important. And I think a positive start away puts in a very good stead. I think everyone's going out there to put their best foot forward. We know that's going to be a mammoth task ahead of us, but I think that the team is very well prepared. And I think we're also very aware of the threat that's going to face us, and I think we're looking forward to it, quietly optimistic. And I think everyone knows the importance of 3 points. You're going to win, you're playing to win. So we're looking forward to give our best away from home. And, if you get those away results, it could be tough for teams coming here to South Africa in our summer, playing in the afternoons. They're not used to that there. So an away tie is very crucial for us.
Elsewhere, Arsenal and Bukayo Saka are in talks over a new long-term contract. There's no agreement between the player and the club currently, but discussions are reportedly positive, and there is a willingness from all parties to come to a resolution. The 24-year-old's current Arsenal deal is set to expire in 2027. In cricket, Proteas woman coach Mandla Mashembe says that including Dane van Niekerk in his squad for the inbound tour against Ireland in December was a no-brainer. The 32-year-old returns to the national team after 4 years, and she headlines a group that includes fellow retainees Faye Tunnicliffe and leg spinner Seshni Naidu in the T20 squad, joining regulars Laura Fulvart, Nelise Marzan Cup, Chloe Tyron, Nadine de Klerk, and Nonkululeko Mlaba.
Quite consistent in the last 2 seasons. Last season she scored runs, and she started well this season as well. So I think it will be a no-brainer not to pick a player who is the first performer. The name comes with a lot of previous stuff in terms of being captain and doing well for the team before. But I think he has earned a call-up based on the performances that he's put the last time.
Meanwhile, Kagiso Rabada has been ruled out of the second India test tomorrow after failing to fully recover from a rib injury. Then Deval Brevis and Keshav Maharaj are making a return in the ODI side, while Luandre Pretorius and Donovan Ferrer do not make the team. When it comes to T20 sides, fans will be excited to see Andrik Nortje back in action. He's been named in the T20 squad and will play his first match for South Africa since T20 World Cup final in 2024 against India. Along with Nortje, David Miller and Gwena Mapanga have also been recalled to the T20 team. Ashraf, before I leave, predictions for this weekend.
Yes.
Obviously, we're looking forward to seeing the Springboks play, and I think the Springboks are going to do well.
In Ireland?
Yeah, I think
Tough game,
I'm
yeah.
going to go for Springboks. The Las Vegas Grand Prix, Lando Norris. Arsenal versus Tottenham. I think Arsenal is going to win that one.
You think?
I
Is
think
that a
so.
prediction? Think it's not a prediction. What's the prediction?
Arsenal. Chelsea, Chiefs versus Al Mazri. I think Al Mazri is going to win because they're playing in
Okay.
Egypt.
Right.
And Sundowns versus FC Liverpool. I'm going for Sundowns.
Okay. Well, listen, just talk of predictions. So we haven't spoken about predictions for a long time because I was away.
Yep.
But at halftime in the France Springboks game at Stade de France, where I was there, and we were down by 3 points with 14 men, my prediction is we are in for a torrid second half. Thank goodness I got my predictions wrong.
Let's see if I will get my predictions right this weekend. With that said, ke nna tumeng kgapele Modimo ke yo.
Hey, want to check your TV license balance conveniently? Look no further. Our SMS service allows you to do just that. By sending a message containing your ID or TV license number to 44210, you can quickly access your balance without needing multiple inquiries or waiting on hold. Plus, standard SMS rates apply. Take advantage of this efficient method to stay informed and streamline your payment process today. T's and C's apply.
So you thought you were building a business in this economy, but day by day, somehow it grew. You kept going when the freezer didn't freeze, the bucket didn't budge, and the bank balance barely blinked. So you thought you were building a business. You weren't. It was building you, because this isn't just what you do anymore. It's who you are, and you don't trust just anybody to protect it. Chat to your broker about Old Mutual Insure Business Insurance. Protect what built you. Old Mutual Insure Limited is a licensed FSP and non-life insurer.
Streaming Scheme Sum on the way to class.
Catching the Premier League while waiting for your order.
Jamming to Metro FM before you even get out of bed.
On SABC Plus, sinayo yonke into ifunayo. Your shows, your music, your way, anytime, anywhere. Zero subscription fees.
On your phone, tablet, or smart TV.
Download SABC Plus on iOS or Google Play Store.
Right, so you know that G20 is very much a part of our lives, certainly this weekend. Now, SABC News Channel 404 is your official host broadcaster for the G20 Summit. And from 5:30 to 11, firstly, you can catch it live on SABC2, but then with continuous G20 programming going all throughout the day, in fact, from 5:30 a.m. until midnight on channel SABC 404, right? You can also then catch it live stream on the SABC News Live stream and then dedicated G20 pop-up channel on SABC Plus. You need to download the app. I do, and I listen to it all the time via the app. Don't miss a moment. G20 Summit with SABC News.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
And let's get those numbers with Jimmy Moyaha. Jimmy?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Good afternoon to the listeners. There's been a massive sell-off in markets today, with the Asia session leading that charge. Almost all Asian markets were by over 2% each. That filtered through into US markets, into European markets, into South African markets. No markets were spared there. For a bit of context, the Bitcoin price was 80,000 point, which is something I think I mentioned a little earlier in the week, saying that it is a very real possibility. But if I'm honest, I didn't expect it to happen this soon. In rand terms, the Bitcoin price below 1.5 million rand per Bitcoin. And the commodity markets were the only real markets that seemed to hold a bit of ground, but even they had some ground. The gold price at around 4,060 finance, way below the 4,100 or 4,200 odd level at which we saw recently. Rand still holding its ground relatively against the US dollar. The market at the moment trying to figure out or trying to make sense of where we go from here. We know that we've got G28 this weekend. We don't expect too much volatility from that. The sentiment that's way in the market. Going into next week, we close off this week negative territory in red territory. And going into next week, we see what the rest of November holds ahead of hopefully what we will see as a Santa rally. I don't know if we'll get one this year, but a couple of analysts calling that we might, saying that this might be the final pullback for that. But we can only wait until we see. Going into the weekend, we take prices from my hand. We close on the JSE that was down 1%, and hopefully we come back a little stronger next week.
Right, perfect. Thank you so much for that. And you have a lekker weekend. We'll connect on Monday. Coming up next, it's Yunus Kareem once again.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Okay, fine. Yeah. So fireside chat with Yunus Kareem. Besides being this activist for life, I think that's his words. In the sense, you can never really retire from a life of activism. He's put together a book called "Attacking the Heart of Apartheid," the ANC's special the ANC's MK Special Operations Unit, and we've been talking about that, just the people and the research done. But what about the nuts and bolts about it? What has been uncovered? And let's get on to that. So Yunus, thanks for I think already what you've done is just so critically important, right? But I think in the 15 minutes or so we have remaining, I want to leave it with you to perhaps share with us some stories, some of the stories you've picked up, and it really would be, I think, silly for me to prioritize. I've gone through this book, but the more I looked at it, I said, hold it. I want to ask you, perhaps we could have time for maybe 5 unique stories that you may want to share. So can I leave it to you? I mean, with story 1, and then we'll run through the others.
Yeah, thanks, Ashraf. You're right. The book is, it sets out initially in the first 2 chapters the strategy, role, and context within which special ops emerged, right? The visit to Vietnam, the Tambo, and then the guidance they got on linking the armed struggle with the political struggles inside the country, the political underground. The book basically doesn't romanticize the armed struggle. It says it was forced on the ANC and what happened in the 60s, early 60s. And it sort of argues that the armed struggle was nowhere near as effective as romanticized versions of the ANC and Ubuntu and the rest of us present. But it certainly wasn't, Ashraf, as ineffective as is being made out in the public discourse. If you see the armed struggle as interdependent with and interconnected with the other pillars of the struggle, with the mass struggle being preeminent, political underground, and even national sanctions, then the armed struggle assumes quite a significant role. Now, within this book, the book is essentially about who, why, what, where, how, and so on. And it's the stories of the foot soldiers, as many commentators said. And I suppose the one that stands out is the most spectacular operation ever, I think, of any MK unit. That was May 31st, 1980, Republic Day as it was then, attack on Sasol. At about 11:40 p.m., there were these massive explosions. 7 fuel storage tanks exploded in Sasol 1, in Sasolburg. 5 minutes later at Natref, which is about 4 kilometers away. And 40 minutes later, over 100 kilometers away, in Secunda, the third operation. The smoke actually lasted. It went 4,000 meters into the sky. It drifted to the southern suburbs of Johannesburg. And as Peter Moscati and Cohen, the writers say, it was like a volcano on mad.
Wow.
And not a single death, one injury. But the attack was on Sasol because it's from coal and it was violating the international boycott. And the aim of these high visibility special operation targets were to undermine the confidence of those who supported apartheid, to dent the economy, to bolster the confidence of the masses, and to give a push to mass struggles inside the country. The second was Cuba.
Just hold it before you get to Cuba on the Sasol one. So, what about names? I mean, people, MK commanders, MK activists were directly involved in them. Give me some names. We need to hear their stories.
Yeah, the legendary Bani Molokwane, who died on 28th of November in a shootout with the police with two others, Vincent Seketi and Vita Kayana. Bani Molekwane was a famous activist, leader, commander there. It was coordinated by Slobo, Ubadi, and Rashid. And the others who were involved there were David Moisi, who died recently and who served several years on Robben Island until 1991. They had a lot of MK names, and even until now, those who died, we don't know the real Scorpio, and a whole lot of other people were involved there. There were three groups. One hit Sasol 1, the other hit Sasol 2, and the third involved a guy called Tiwe, with 3 limpet mines outside the offices, which were actually the US company, was the French company, no US company, that was building the Sasol 3. So the second operation that's famous, most people say Sasol and Koeberg stand out most. Koeberg was actually carried out by a very interesting guy, an unusual guerrilla, if you like, Rodney Wilkinson and his partner Heather Gray. And he was working there. He took the pans away, and he took it outside the country to Slovo and McMaraj. And finally, he carried out that operation 2 weeks before it became radioactive. That, like the Sasol operation, created world's news. It happened on the 18th of December. There were 4 explosions. It wasn't spectacular because there weren't any fuel tanks to hit and so on. It was obviously nuclear. Then the third was the coordinated set of operations that attacked the power stations, Arnott, Camden, and Delmas, all on one night from 1:40 a.m. onwards in the next hour or so. And there were many explosions and so on. Of course, today, when you think of outages, it has very different meaning. We all dread, not those who took part in that campaign. That was led by a guy called Johannes Ndisi, and he had 3 sets of... at that stage, the power, electricity, was a key Achilles heel of the economy. So they hit it for that reason. Today, of course, it has a very different meaning in a democracy. So those are the 3 major operations. And I suppose the most interesting story for me, and from others who read the book who've come back to me on it, is the one about Patrick Chamuso. Here's a guy, no formal education, 3 times arrested because he was coincidentally somewhere where an operation took place. He was accused of being an ANC guerrilla. He wasn't. He was nothing to do with politics. As the chapter is entitled, and he chuckles when he says it, he says, Comrade Karim, wrong place, wrong time, wrong person.
Oh, wow.
So he gets arrested 3 times. It's a lovely story. It's been made into a movie called Catch a Fire, directed by Sidney Pollack. So this fellow, not interested in politics at all, assaulted 3 times. He gets fed up. So he says, look, I'm not ANC. But now that I keep getting arrested because they say I'm ANC, I'm going to join the ANC, and so he does.
Oh my God! So he had the opposite of the desired effect. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. He comes back to South Africa. He carries out the operation, and he gets arrested. But when he gets released in 1990, Slobo meets him, and he goes to shell off and Slobo tells his daughter, Sean, who's a scriptwriter, and Robin, who's a film producer, that if you ever wanted to do a movie, not a documentary on a person, choose him. And this guy, with no formal education, Ashraf, you'd love to talk to him. Right?
Wow.
He's got the shining eyes, and his face glows. And no formal, and he really is a great storyteller, so much so that Andrew Meldrum of The Observer, the famous film critic, said that this guy shone over the stars, and over the director. Everybody wanted to meet him. Here's a guy traverses the red carpets of Los Angeles when the movie comes out, the premiere, London, Paris, and so on. And he swept the journalists off their feet. No formal education. He was the most entertaining person to listen to, And the other person that's very interesting was Bani Molekwane. Well, he's a legend. After he's known, he took part in direct skirmishes with the SAD.
Okay, I tell you what, hold it on the direct skirmishes because I want to know more about, as you said, this legend, and let's get into detail on that. Chatting to Yunus Karim, and as you know, if you've picked up the conversation, it's a fireside chat with a very specific slant to his book, Attacking the Heart of Apartheid, really looking at the stories of these, the MK Special Operations Unit and the people behind it, people that, as you've heard now, by and large, we've hardly known about. We've known the big names, but very little about these activists on the ground who really did the work. And And I think in that case, this book is a must read for you if you need to know what South Africa was like at that time and now. This is the National Pulse.
Masandawana want to ensure that their DRC visitors have no say in Pretoria, the country's capital city. Meanwhile, the Railmen are committed to a decent result away from home. This is the Group C first leg clash of the CAF Champions League. Mamelodi Sundowns FC versus FC St. Eloy Lupopo. This Saturday, 22 November at 2:30 p.m. live on SABC Plus and SABC2. Then on SABC radio stations at 3 p.m. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
Clientele is here to safeguard you and your family with compassion because life happens. Be part of a family that truly cares. Our funeral dignity plans have helped South Africans bury their loved ones with dignity for more than 30 years. Let us help you create a meaningful tribute that honors your life and those of your loved ones. We pay out within 24 hours and you will get double accident cover with a clientele funeral plan. Our plans are affordable. Pick the option that suits your needs. Easy to apply, no medical examinations and no paperwork. SMS SAFM to 48031. That's 48031. Clientele Life is an authorized FSP and licensed life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
When love turns to hate and hate turns to violence, the truth is never simple. In Love and Hate Crime Season 2, real stories expose the dark side of human emotion, where identity, passion, and prejudice collide. Powerful, unflinching, unforgettable. These are the crimes that challenge what we think we know about love and humanity. Thursdays at 10 p.m. only on S3. S3, open up.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Right, with Yunus Karim with the fireside chat, we're focusing on his book, Attacking the Heart of Apartheid. So, yeah, to tell us that story about, you said there were some significant moments to share there, right?
Yeah, you see, just to pick up on your last point.
Yeah.
The book's theme is look at these people, right? They gave their lives, many of them, and others who were interviewed were prepared to give their lives. So it's a sort of like sub-theme to the youth of our country in particular, that this democracy didn't fall from the skies. It came about through titanic struggles over decades with many people having sacrificed their lives, limb and whatever else. And so we have to rescue this democracy. It's fraying, and too much was invested to get us to 1994 to allow that to happen. Secondly, since you plugged this book, I need to stress that I'm not getting any royalties out of this book. Whatever money comes, it's limited though it will be to a writer, is going to be allocated to one or more of the families of those who died in the struggle. And I won't decide that. The commanders of special ops will decide who the money goes to. The book's available at 400 Rand exclusive books, but you can get it at 325. I think it'll take a lot. So some people, like here in my hometown, they bought extra books. And one person who was in school who bought 50 books, actually, very kindly, he said, what came up at the launch the day before, he phoned me on Sunday after the Saturday of the launch. He said, look, we need to get this book out to youth. So I'm giving you 50 books. It's a donation. Get it out to school libraries, which I've started doing. So I think you're right. Nobody knows these people. Myself also. I've been around since 71. Yeah? I never heard of Ernest Kule, Makwala Nyalunga, Mangaliso, Beni. I mean, so many of these people, Patrick Chabusa I knew of, but I mean, so many of these people I'd never heard of. You know? There's Abraham Lenswane and so on. Nobody's ever acknowledged them. And I really do think that one of the other striking things that's come out of these four launches we've had in Cape Town, Joburg, eThekwini, and Msunduzi is the non-racialism of the MK Special Ops Unit. It includes people of all races. Africans, obviously, a majority, but Indians, so-called coloureds, and whites. And the whites that were included here, it's not just Marion Squad from Eastern Cape, Ryan Crosscroft from the Johannesburg area. It's also, of course, people like Helene Pastoors from Belgium. Klaas de Jong was rolled up in the embassy, the Dutch embassy from Holland. Who's that of Maria Overeem? Who's even of Guido van Ecken and Nora Bogart, a couple, who assisted Rashid and them to bring arms into the country and so on. There's another person from Holland, doesn't want to be known, but he also was prepared. They were prepared to give their lives for us. Then look at Bonnie Muller and Nicholas Heath in the UK, who set up the firm Moy Plus outside the SADF military base, to facilitate Barney Molekule and them carrying out that operation with a Grad P rocket launcher. So basically, if it's the case that even somebody like me didn't know 80% of the people to interview or hear about through others because they died, then, there are other books that can be written about our history. And the people who made that history are fast moving on. They're passing on. They're dying or they're too sick and so on. Several of these people, by the way, in a very poorest state of health. And so I was pleased to send them 34 copies. I've got, as you know, publishers who might myself 6 people. And for the rest, you have to buy them.
Yeah.
Like, they give you a half price. I got copies of the books.
Yeah.
I couldn't afford it. They're not a culture of buying books. And I also gave it to the families of those who died,
Of course, yeah.
And they're proud to see the photographs.
Yeah.
To say the book's got a whole lot of hilarious anecdotes, I
Mm.
mean, there are astonishing things that happen.
Give me one anecdote, one truly hilarious one.
Johannes Mnisi, right? Johannes Mnisi is the commander of the 3 attacks on the power stations. So he has now a Swazi passport, a false one. So as he's going back, having asked other comrades to jump over the fence, he's in the car. He gets stopped at a roadblock, not too far from the border with Swaziland. So the police check his car and so it's okay, and he's taking Swazi passport. They say to him, "You must be careful driving here. This place is rotten with terrorists." And so yes, he's the main terrorist because he's the commander. Then he gets to the border, and there's an Afrikaner guy who's the Home Affairs guy. He says to him, to Mnisi, he says, "What happened yesterday? I had a lot of bombs." He says, "Yeah," says Mnisi. "You know what? I'm not coming back to your country anymore. Too many bombs." So the Home Affairs guy says to him, No, he says, "We'll be all right soon. Come back. And so on. It's hilarious, the anecdotes that are there. So, there's a whole section there. Well, it's discussed throughout the book about the funny things. Of course, at the time, give you another example. Here's Barney Molekwane and his unit with a Grad P launcher. It's a very heavy rocket launcher, and it's put in a dead letter box underneath their van. And the van gets stalled somewhere in Swaziland. So they don't know what to do. And nearby is a police station. So they go to the police station and say, "Got to get this guy fixed. And we just park it here." So the police come and push the van. And they say, the van is so heavy. And of course, they park the van overnight in a police station, So they are all.
Oh my goodness! What a story! I mean, each one's like a movie in its own right. Wow.
Yeah. The stories on their own. You read the first 2 chapters. And Mahal Parashi doesn't like me saying this, but the strategy and the overall approach.
Yeah.
The chapters can be made on their own. Each story is separate.
Yeah.
So it's a book of stories there.
Well, I mean, that's great. So listen, I want people to buy it. Our time is up. We've got 30 seconds to go. They need to get the book, Attacking the Heart of Apartheid. You absolutely must get the book. But just to end with, in the 30 seconds remaining, what has been the reaction of the ANC and the military veterans to the publishing of the book?
Oh, they've been extremely welcoming. They've attended and they've spoken at almost all these launches. They've advertised it widely within their own ranks. And there are some, like Peter in Gwenya, who bought 30 books. He was involved in an attempt to hit the SADF army that was going to Namibia. And he bought 30 books to distribute. And even people not particularly political, like my school friend, bought 50 to distribute. So the book sales are fine, except that you want to get as much as possible so that those who are the beneficiaries can get a decent amount of money.
Yeah.
So it's not about an individual making money through writing a book. And you can't make money. It's seen to make money out of a book where people died for the struggle of a cause and made possible people like me to be in parliament for 30 years to get the very handsome pension I currently have.
Well, I think you are right. So well said on that last part. You can't make money off the struggle of other people. So well said, the Honorable Yunus Karim. That's the way we're going to leave it. Thanks for your time. Really enjoyed the conversation. But I think people need to get the book. It is that important in the history of South Africa. No question about it. Thank you for giving up your time here on this Friday Fireside Chat. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Van. Thank you, dear listeners, for the
Much
patience.
appreciated. That was so interesting indeed, right? Just leaves us time with A, get the book, but B, it's time for the news at 6.
Thank you, Ashraf. Your top stories talk of a G20 leaders draft